Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. You're on the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have an incredible guest today. We got Forbes Riley here in the house. Forbes Riley is a superstar celebrity. She's going to tell us all about herself and maybe a quick 30-second snapshot. But one thing I do want to highlight, folks, is that she's the queen of pitch. She's an actress. She's a celebrity TV host and home shopping superstar. She's got product sales of $2.5 billion plus today. So I want to welcome Forbes Riley. How are you, Forbes?
Just, you know what, this is the first time I've gotten a chance to see your face because we met on Clubhouse. So this is just so much fun. I love your background, by the way. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here. Where is that? It looks like Tahiti somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. That is me. I'm on a roof. I'm in a penthouse apartment. Actually, I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. Originally from New York, and I know you know something about that. I'm down here in the beautiful, sunny St. Pete.
Wow. So Forbes, I think the best way to get started, can you do like maybe a 30-second snapshot about yourself? Just tell us a little about who you are, and then we're going to get right into your story.
I can do you even one better since we haven't spent a lot of time visual. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Wow.
Audio Jungle.
This is the first time I've done this. I like this.
Let's give it up for Forbes Riley.
The reason you don't have what you want is you don't know what it is. I've grossed $2.5 billion by tweaking people's pitches on infomercials. You hear things differently than I do. I hear money every time somebody talks. I hear enrollment, engagement.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and today we've got a great product for you. Take a look at this.
She's got me working out, or what are these called?
Called a SpinGym.
She launched her multi-million-dollar company by mortgaging her house and her kids' education fund. She knew it was going to happen.
I think pitch is everything. I don't care what kind of product that you've got. If you don't know how to pitch or articulate it, you will go nowhere.
I coach CEOs of Fortune 100 companies who have stood there and told me, Forbes, you pitch my company better than my marketing team. You don't get to sit home and wait for the phone to ring. No, it doesn't really work that way. You write down action steps. You get a mentor. You find someone who's done what you've done, and you ask them how they did it. If you dream it and you hold it to be true, you keep driving towards that. You keep talking about that dream, and actually you keep taking action, and then one day you're like, oh my God, how did I do that? I started out as an actress in Hollywood and a TV host, everything from the X Games to my own talk show. And about 20 years ago, I took the entrepreneurial route. I ended up on home shopping. I'm tired of seeing women suffer. I grew up heavy my whole life. My mom was 260 pounds and she was miserable. You want to be yourself. I appreciate that you want your family, but you want to be glamorous and gorgeous and fun and have people tell you that you're wonderful, don't you? You want all those things. Okay, I can't be the one to tell you that. You need to be the one to own that. And that's where your success lies. When someone says to you, what do? They do not care what you do. They don't? No, they care what you can do for them. It's never the resources. It's not your time or your money. Billionaires have no more time than you and I have. They have resourcefulness. They have a deep down drive. And if I can empower you to do that, you can have everything you want. Let me make your life explode. And there you go. So isn't that better than me just talking about how wonderful I am? Wait, you're muted, Anthony. You're muted, my friend. Unmute.
Oh yeah. You got an exceptional demo reel. That's really cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, well, it's fun because I've spent my entire life on television. I started when I was 16 years old, and I ended up on the Miss Teenage America pageant with Bob Hope, and it's a crazy story how I got there as an ugly, goofy little girl. But
yeah, so let's get to it. We got a huge story. Well, let's not start there.
You start to ask questions, and I'll tell you what you need to know.
All right, so we'll spend about figure 20 minutes or so on your story, and then I got a lot of questions for you that I think will be fun as well, if that's okay with you, Forbes.
No, it's fine. I, at this point in my life, am all about getting people to understand that what you see right now is the tip of the iceberg, is that you don't see all the things underneath. And so if you want your dreams to come true, because that's your audience, you got to really delve in and figure out all the things that make that person who they are, because it's not just the glamorous part that we want you to see. And in fact, I have a video that will be blown away because I gave Kim Kardashian her start in television. I was there before that girl even did anything. So I know a lot of what makes people who they are is the ups and downs. I have a phrase called, you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. And I'm a huge fan of that because most people don't realize what goes into greatness.
Oh, that's beautiful. No, I agree 100%. And I'd love to hear your story. So let's step back. Where were you originally from, Forbes?
All right, so I'm going to do this because that's what I find to do. So see that picture? That's this little girl who grew up on Long Island, New York. And
Wow.
I had great, loving parents. And I'll share that my dad was an inventor and an engineer. But one of the things I'm showing you here is that I had a really crazy palate. And for 8 years of my life, I was in braces. And for 2 years, I had a tongue twister and I talked like this. And I think that's one reason I can't stop talking now. When I grew up, I got hit in the face with a baseball bat. I had an ugly broken nose and frizzy hair, and I was overweight. And I looked like all the little Long Island girls that you grew up with. And I had this dream of being more than that. I had a fantasy about being on television. Well, my beautiful dad, who you see here, he built that printing press. He never graduated college, but he was an engineer. And one day he slipped and he got his hand caught in a printing press. He ended up 3 years in the hospital. And that just destroyed our family financially, crushed us because he was the only breadwinner. And there I am, not looking very attractive. And one day, when my dad was in the hospital, 3 years, Tony, 3 years in the hospital, my mom said, baby, we don't have any money for college. And it was devastating to us. And then she said, well, there's this beauty pageant. I'm like, Mom. And she like, I know. And there was this weird moment where I'm like, okay, we both know how ugly I am. Thank you, Mom. But my dad's doctor overheard us talking. And he said, I'm going to fix her nose. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot to anybody, but I'll tell you what, this is what happened to me. My nose got kind of cute. And all of a sudden you could see my eyes. And my smile went from upside down icky to right side up. And I said to my mom, I'm going to enter this beauty pageant. And it was in the mall wearing a hand-me-down dress. And guess what, Tony? I won. I won Miss Teenage New York.
Wow.
It was amazing. And then I went on to the nationals, right? So there I am. I ended up on television with Bob Hope. I'm a little overweight. Right. I know. This is why I'm showing this to you, because it's almost impossible. 16 years. That's right. Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's really crazy. No, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Oh, actually, you know what? Can I pause for 1 second, Forbes? Two points. First of all, I'm from Philadelphia, not New York.
But you sound so New York. Come on, baby. You sound like
I'm from South. Yeah, Philadelphia. Second point was that I relate to your dad's story. That's crazy. My grandfather actually, his hand got stuck in a dye. He was worked at a dye factory and he got stuck in the mill. And same story with yours. He was off from work for 1.5 years and my family had no money to eat. My father slept on beach chairs. They had no social security. It was back in the 60s. Right. So my story ties right to that.
That's kind of crazy. Well, to wrap this up, that week, that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1977. And I have to tell you, it was the worst week of my life. Because even though I'm on television and all this should have been wonderful, I'm from New York. And the little girls in the middle of the country, like, y'all have the funniest accent I ever heard. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm an accent. And I didn't know how bad it sounded. And I was also Jewish in a time when there were no Jews. And they made a big deal about that. And it was very hurtful. How come all the Jews in my town are rich? Where are your horns? And I, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, was made to feel like an absolute outcast. And I will tell you, Tony, that led a lot to how heart-centric I am. But the long and short of it is, I did end up going to college. And that was my mom at graduation. My mom was always 260 pounds. She never worked out. And it's one reason that I do my fitness products and live my life the way I do. And I dreamed of being this beautiful Forbes Riley. And I went from being Francine Forbes, the overweight, goofy girl, to living my dreams. And I'll tell you what, it changed my entire life. And I learned that you can create a world, a physical world, because you probably don't deal with this as a guy. But as a woman, my entire life, people have always said to me, oh, you look good, or you could lose a little weight, you got a cute face, or I've always been judged for the physical. And I will tell you a story that changed everything for me and how important and why I realized that mentors matter. But I did get to college and I was going to be a lawyer because that's what you did if you were smart from my high school. But I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to be an actress, but there's no actresses. That's like not, that's a pipe dream, right? And and I auditioned for I don't know in your high school, but we did musicals every year. And I always got townsperson or chorus. I was the big chorus. I never had a name on chorus. Well, senior year of college, I auditioned for Shakespeare's As You Like It, the biggest Shakespearean play that he wrote for a woman. And the main character she's amazing. She's on stage for like 2.5 hours. She plays a boy. She's manipulative and it's great. So I auditioned like I always did. Tony, I go to the call board to see who got the parts. And I'm looking at chorus and townsperson and my name isn't there. And I was so insecure back then that I thought, God, I'm not even that good. I can't even get like a small no-name part in a college production. And I said, well, I guess I should see who got the lead. And I look at the very top, the character of Rosalind, and there's my name. And I remember thinking, I I think they made a mistake. And I went to the college professor, a guy named Professor David Richmond, and I said, he was our acting coach as well, drama coach. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't even know what to do with this. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're my ideal Rosalind. And I thought, okay. Sat me down, and he said all of these things, Tony, that I'd always thought about in my, who I thought I was in my inside my heart.
Yes.
You have great communication skills, and you're this and you're that, and no one ever said any of these things to me. You know the crazy thing about him, Tony, he was 100% legally blind. He couldn't see any of the things that other people saw. And it was his passion for me. And the play was a raging success that I called my parents on the phone and I said, guys, I'm really sorry here. I know it's going to take decades to pay this loan off, but I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm moving to New York City and I'm going to be an actress. And I remember my mom, she's like, baby, we love you. Go follow your, somebody started to cry. I ended up like in a 1-bedroom tiny apartment, in a 4-story walk up over a Chinese kitchen, a Chinese restaurant in Hell's Kitchen. I landed the lead in my very first feature film. I know it's a movie that you probably love. It's called Splatter University, where the school colors are blood red. It's a real film. My first movie. I've done tons of movies, and it launched my entire career. And I'm here because of a crazy belief that one mentor, one moment can change your life. 2, that you've got to have a steadfast belief in who you are, because you're not given anything in this life. People, you earn your stripes. And I know you know that. You have to fight for what you want. At least I did. And then you have to be able to have the chops. And I'm a well-trained actress and I'm an improv artist and a dancer and all the things I studied to get where you are, that when you finally do get that opportunity, that you're prepared, because that's what success is. Preparation meets opportunity. That's been the story of my entire life. I am the scrappy kid who worked so hard. I could outwork anybody. And that's been an entire career. And now when I'm looking back on my career, it's long, it's amazing. But going through it, I just remember all the hard work it took to get there.
Wow. That is incredible. All right. Do you mind if we dig a little bit deeper with the story?
Go for it.
Can we fix this screen though? Because I don't know if it'll go.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to stop sharing during that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, because they probably see us real small.
They see this. Well, they see this big heart, and maybe
yes.
That's love. I'm sorry. I meant to stop sharing. My apologies.
Oh, that's what I was trying to fix. Okay, thank you for it. Appreciate it. No, it's a great story, and wow, that is incredible. I didn't know that about your dad. That's amazing. I totally relate to that story. My father became an entrepreneur actually because of that, because he was tired of watching his dad struggled. I have 4 grandparents. They all died broke. And in his case, my dad back then they didn't have Social Security. This was in the 60s. So when did that happen to your father?
1975.
75?
Yeah. He spent 3 years in the hospital. He had 15 operations. They cut him up. They just because they didn't want to not have him have his hand, and they rebuilt his fingers. They rebuilt the tendons. I mean, it was insane what he went through.
Same thing. Wow, that's crazy. So this is what I heard from my dad. He tells me that my grandfather had the first surgery. It was like pro bono for a fake hand, like back then. So, yeah. Did your dad have he had like a few fingers? He could never use it.
Right. So what happened was he cut the whole front of his hand off. So he ripped his palm off.
Oh, man.
So he had his fingers. Ultimately, his hand kind of looked like this at some point. By the way, this is crazy, not to gross you guys out, but I went through all of this with him. They rebuilt the fingers. They never really worked very well. But for his palm, they cut a slit in his arm, stuck his hand inside his arm and grafted the inside meat right here, became the front of his hand. I mean, it was wildly experimental. It was very powerful trauma for all of us to go through. But, ultimately he was okay. It shattered, it set everybody on a course. It set me on a course that said that's never going to happen again. You financially need to be set up. You need to have your eggs in a lot of different baskets, because we were hungry. It was really, really challenging. And then my mother, this is so bizarre too. My parents belonged to the gun club when I was little. They were like Annie. My mom was called Annie Oakley, and my dad loved handguns. And they were president and vice president of the local gun club. And one day when my mom was home alone, she had 2 armed men come in and break into the house and hold her at gunpoint for 2 hours. And they cleaned out this little tiny house, 1,300 square feet. They stole everything, including all of my jewelry, my mom's jewelry, everything. And I will tell you, it certainly set an imprint on who I am and how I view success, how I view luxury items. And at some point in this conversation, I'm going to share the story of me and what jewelry means to me and why my daughter has become my super angel. But I'll save that for in a few minutes from now.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you there when your house got broken into?
No, they knocked on the door. We were at school. I was at high school at the time. And these two guys, as my mother told it, knocked on the door, asked for directions, and then broke in and put a gun to her head and said, your money or your life. And then they ransacked the entire house. And the thing was, she didn't know if the guns that they had were real, but when they got upstairs to my dad's vault and they cleaned out all the guns, they knew that she was in trouble. I came home from high school and there were cop cars everywhere.
Wow.
And I'm grateful that they didn't kill her, because I don't know, I wouldn't be here. But I do know that we never really talked about it. I recently found the article. I guess I'd saved the article about, local family gets burgled. But the trauma that she sustained, and they locked her in the basement in the laundry room, and it took its toll on her and my whole family.
So let's go back to when you were very young. Like, what was your first, decade like of your life?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is interesting. So for me, I was first child, 4 years old when I found my, they're going to go back to my parents. My parents, this is fun. We're both immigrants. Their parents were immigrants from Ukraine. Nobody knew where the Ukraine was last week, and now everybody knows where the Ukraine.
Hey, look, I got my Ukraine colors on.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I always thought I was Russian. Turns out Kiev and Odessa are now in, I guess it was USSR at some point, but
wow.
That's where these cheekbones come from. And my mom was this beautiful woman. Her dad was a butcher. Her mom was really short and ran numbers and raised bulldogs. And they didn't have a lot of money, and she slept on the couch in their tiny apartment in Brooklyn. But she was beautiful. And she met my dad. My dad comes from a lot of money. His grandfather had like buildings in New York City. And his mom was very, very wealthy, and apparently not as nice as you'd want her to be. And he was very handsome. And when he met my mom, she was from the wrong side of the tracks. And he basically got disowned.
Wow.
So the two of them were on their own. They had a tiny little house in Long Island. My dad was an inventor. He was a magician. I do magic tricks. I can do a magic trick for you right now that I've never been able to do on Clubhouse.
Yeah, let's do it in a little bit. Sure.
I grew up doing magic, and that explains a lot of my presentational styles. And Dad was this dreamer. And in his garage, I had a Batmobile. He created half a garbage can, a lawnmower engine, and made me a Batmobile. And we were the weird kids on the block. Now, the crazy thing for me is I was annoyingly smart. So smart that I couldn't talk to kids my own age. At 5 years old, 6 years old, you're in first grade. I got invited to my first grade teacher's wedding. In second grade, I'm sitting with the principal doing linguistics. Who does linguistics when they're a 7-year-old? And so I got put into a genius class, and I didn't feel that smart. I already felt like an outcast. And so what happened was I didn't really believe I was that smart, Tony. So I worked really hard. I made sure that I got all A's. I graduated high school and college. Get this, I graduated college in 3 years with 2 degrees. That's how much I was obsessed with working, but I had no social life. I was not social at all. I didn't talk to friends. My daughter, in fact, said, Mom, so what was it like when you were growing up? Did you have sleepovers? I'm like, no, I didn't really have any sleepovers. I didn't really have much of a social life at all. What I did growing up was I watched television and movies and did my homework. And on the weekends, I went roller skating, so much so that I'm a professional roller skater. I roller skated on Broadway. And I went to dance class. And even though I had little chunky thighs, I loved to dance and loved to move. And I had my dreams of being on Broadway and all the movies that I saw. I grew up in a time of musicals. I wanted to work with Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. And that's what I lived in my head. I was a fantasy girl from the time I was little.
So Forbes, did you say your parents were immigrants or their parents?
Their parents. They were both born in Brooklyn and New York City.
You're second generation then, right?
Yeah. And you?
Okay. Me, it's hard to ask that question because on some sides I'm third generation and on other sides I'm fifth generation. So it's all relevant to the question. Like when certain grandparents, like I'm the fourth, technically the first was Antonio Criniti, my one grandfather, the great grandfather, and he was from Italy. But then you go on like my dad's other side, and they were already here for 2 generations before that. So, it's hard to say. I don't know. What do you use, the lower number or the higher number?
Yeah, I don't know. I use whatever seems to work. I didn't even think about being an immigrant. And it's funny because now with all the cultural problems and stuff, my family got here long after the Civil War. But a lot of the immigrants that we knew were escaping for a better life. You know, I have a lot of Irish friends whose family came here to survive, and Italian friends. In fact, in my neighborhood, it was Italian and Jewish. It was a pizza, pasta, and matzah.
That's funny. All right. Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate that. All right. So the your second decade from like 10 to 20, what was it like well, let's say before college, before you got to college? Any other facts you want to throw in there?
Well, you know, aside from the Miss Teenage America pageant, which was the biggest my town had ever seen. I mean, I was on national NBC at 8 o'clock that night. And I got to college when I was 16 years old. So I was in school at a very, very young age, and I couldn't wait to get out. I didn't think that I belonged in academia, and I just couldn't wait to explore the world. In fact, when I graduated, right after graduating, I got the lead in a movie. I started doing soap operas. And then I remember I had this thought in my head. You know who Hans Christian Andersen is?
Yeah.
Right. So he was a great storyteller, from The Emperor's New Clothes to The Ugly Duckling. And when I was in high school, we had to do a one-man show or one-woman show. I chose him. I wanted to be a storyteller from the time I was little. And sometimes doing plays was that, sometimes doing radio and whatever it happened to be. And I found this book called Europe on $20 a Day. And I said to my mom, who'd never left, she's very small-minded. She didn't want to leave her hometown, didn't want to leave anything. My dad liked to travel a little bit, but they'd not really been out of the country. And I said, I'm going to go to Europe because I'm going to get so famous, Mom, that there'll be paparazzi everywhere. I have to go see Europe while I still can. And so, hey, you know, you can dream. And I bought this book and I said, Mom, here's the book. It's got every country in here. I'm going to see every page. I'm going to see every site, tear out the page when I see it and come home with just the cover. And that's my plan, because I have this vision that when I'm 83 years old, I'm going to be telling the most amazing life story to all of these kids and my grandkids, but I've got nothing to talk about right now. So I love you very much. I took the money I made from my movie. I bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and I started in England, and I drew this map that went down from France to Spain, south of France, over to Italy, and then up the other side. Well, Tony, 6 months I traveled. I forged my Eurail pass because it was only good for 2 months. I forged it 3 times. I still have it. It's pretty funny. I took tons of pictures. I sent home a postcard every day. I have a stack of postcards like this, and I had the most amazing adventure. And here's the crazy thing. I didn't take anybody with me. Again, being quite the loner, I didn't want anyone to go with me. I had my dad's giant Canon camera and a Walkman. I had Burt Bacharach on both sides of one cassette tape because we didn't have iPads back then. I listened to those songs ad nauseum, but I had this amazing adventure. I mean, I jumped off a train in Figueres, Spain to see a Salvador Dali museum where the guy who was smuggling drugs didn't want to get caught. I mean, I can tell you stories for days. And that was me just being 21 years old. And so for the rest of my life, it has been, how do I collect stories to share with other people?
What year was that, Forbes?
That was 1981. It was the same year.
Wow.
Because I do have a book about this in me that I would love to write at some point. Because what happened was, that's the same year that Charles and Diana got married. It was like the fairy tale year. And I very often look back on that when she got killed. Where was I? When other events in my life happened. And a lot of it, you know, stems from that moment of innocence. Now, I will shock you. And I don't tell this very often. But so here I am, this rather naive girl. It's 1981, right? And I used to just think about movies. So I'm in the hotel, in the youth hostel, wherever it was, and I'm needing a tour. So I went to this nicer hotel to get this tour bus. And this very handsome man walks in. And if you've seen the movie Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand, where she's the ugly duckling, and Omar Sharif is the handsome Middle Easterner. Well, this guy walks in wearing an all-white suit, just like Omar Sharif. And I'm like, oh. And he walks over to me and he looks at me, he's like, Madame, can I take you to dinner? And I'm like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like all I have is one cute cotton dress. I go for the tour, I come home, I go out to dinner with him. Well, Tony, here's a funny story. He was a singer. He was Middle Eastern. And in 1981, Europe, London was overrun by Middle East. The oil boom had happened. I don't know any of this. We go out to dinner with a lot of these very, very wealthy men and gorgeous women dripping in jewels. And all of a sudden, I really am in my own vision of a movie here. I can't imagine where we are with this nightclub and it's all dancing and elegance. And I'd never seen any of this up close. And then we go back to this beautiful, very elegant hotel where the entire floor was decked out like a harem. There's sheets. I mean, it doesn't look like a hotel anymore. And I'm just like, you know, I'm just dazzled by everything I'm seeing. What I don't know is that I'm being wooed, Tony. This is how sex trafficking happens. Only I don't know that.
Oh, geez.
And at one moment, this sheik pulls me into a room and says, he gives me these 2 gold earrings. And he says, if you ever want to see your family again, run.
Wow.
And I down the stairway, and I got a sense that he was not joking, and I ran. Now I have the earrings. They're sitting in my jewelry case. I've never worn them. I'm going to get emotional, and it reminds me that if that had gone down differently, what would have happened to this little girl's life here, and what happens to little girls all over the world? And so I am so grateful that I didn't get hurt. Now, I remember I was traveling all by myself, and there was only one other incident where I asked somebody in France for directions, and he pushed me into an alley and started kissing me. I'm like, but I can get terrified by thinking about what I got myself into and how easy I was lured into all of this, and so innocent.
That is an incredible story. Well, I mean, you're here today to continue the message, to at least be able to tell everyone what happened, and to make sure that people are aware of this situation, so to prevent a lot of other women from that scenario. So commend you on that, Forbes. And Forbes, you just strike off another box of things we have in common. I actually did a 6-month Euro pass. Yeah, I lived in Italy for 6 months, but that was only my excuse to use the Euro pass, which I saved up a whole winter cutting Christmas trees and delivering them to get that $1,000. And then and a lot of people from my school, I went to the University of Drake, I think it was Florence University, and nobody, like there was only 2 or 3 that were bold enough to go in the places I wanted to. So 80% of the places I went on by my own. I went in Transylvania and just places that the rest of the school didn't want to go. So I was on the train a lot by myself. I know what you went through. Believe me.
Fun adventure. I mean, I don't know if I would do that now, but it was the most blessed thing ever. It was like some form of Disneyland. You could get on and off trains anywhere you wanted to. And by the way, back then, the other issue was that you had to change money all the time, because every country had a mark or a euro or whatever they had. And now it's hard to imagine it's all €1.
Yeah, I wouldn't understand it now. I was in your system too. Like I had to change the money too. Like when they said they came out with the euro, I'm like, oh boy. Imagine that. But that was pretty cool though. Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate that. We got a lot in common. We'll swap stories on that another time.
I know, right? All right. Well, I'm excited to see what else we have in common here.
So, okay. Well, so after, I want to hear about your, briefly what happened after you graduated from.
Yeah, I don't know if
college.
you guys have enough time, because I'm just turning 62 on Monday. There's a lot of decades to go through. I'm not like a spring chicken. So I can give you some synopsis. So after college, I ended up being an actress. I started my first movie, I guess, started my second movie. Now here's a couple of great stories that I love to share. So one, I've starred in 2 movies. I'm doing some soap operas, and I'm a little chunky. I have a cute face now, but people would always comment on being a little overweight. Now I did a soap opera called As the World Turns on CBS with Meg Ryan and Julianne Moore, who are both very famous movie actors now, but they were like this skinny and I looked like this. Now in real world, this was okay, right? Like, 20, 30 pounds, but on TV, I look like this. And so everybody was always making me go to Overeaters Anonymous, always picking on my weight, because they look like little toothpicks with lollipop heads. I don't know. And it was a very, very frustrating time. And I was going to say, which story should I tell you?
Well, Forbes, I think the most important one is, what was that moment that really catapulted you from like mediocrity to above and beyond? There had to be that moment that took you from the struggle, which you obviously came from, to the point where you knew that, all right, I'm on the right path. This is what I got to do.
No, actually, it didn't work that way. That's what's
no.
No. So now I've got these credits, and you're supposed to have like your resume and your credits, right? Yeah. And I'm meeting all these agents who would chase me around desks. The Me Too movement was about 30 years not ready to happen yet. And so, I can remember very clearly a big agent from ICM, one of the top agencies in the New York City, wants to meet me for lunch in a hotel. And I thought, that's great. Only the hotel, it wasn't in the hotel restaurant. It's in his room. And I went up to his room, number one, because he was a small guy. I thought I could kick him in the balls if I have to. But I'm like, you can't just want that, because I was so freaking naive. And sure enough, we were at lunch, and then we're chasing around. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Don't you see how freaking talented I am? And nobody did. All right. So here's what I did. I got a piece of stationery back then and I wrote out CMA, Creative Management for Artists. I got a phone number and a business card, and I hired a woman, a British woman named Lindsay Maxwell. And Lindsay would promote Forbes Riley because Forbes is a wonderfully talented young woman. You must meet her.
Your accent's so good, you probably could have did that yourself.
I did it myself. I was her. That's the whole point. Dude, I didn't hire anybody. I made up the whole thing. I pitched me for 3 years. I was my own make-believe agent. Okay. Wow. And I got commercial. I know, right? I had a beeper back then. I was on the payphones all the time. And that's how I created all this pitching skills. I was the first thing I ever pitched, and it worked really well. And I finally did get, what happened was, so I'm in New York City and we're doing very well. And then the city got kind of weird. 42nd Street was definitely porno theaters before it became Disney. The subways were getting really bad and it was definitely getting run down. And one day I'm walking across 8th Avenue and there were no grocery stores there. At that time, there was only Korean street markets where you could get your food. And now New York City looks nothing like when I was growing up. And I had an old lady, it's a wire basket that you'd wheel like this tall and you'd wheel it around, put your groceries in it. Mm-hmm. Well, one day my apple popped out while I was crossing the street. And I had an epiphany and I said, my apples should never see the street. My apples should go from Walbaum's, which was the big grocery store when I was growing up, into my car, into my beautiful garage, and into my kitchen. They shouldn't be subjected to 8th Avenue and cabs and people yelling Korean. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm moving, I'm leaving. And I went off and I left to Los Angeles to pursue my acting career. So that was, again, I'm not feeling very successful at the moment. But there's another little caveat to this equation because I have career ADD. So while I'm pursuing acting and being chased around tables and pretending to be my manager and working on Broadway, I did a Broadway show with Christopher Reeve. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw your reel. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well,
I'm a big fan of his. Wow.
I was a huge fan of his. Well, in between doing all that, I discovered Club Med. You know what Club Med is?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Never been there.
Yeah, well, back in the 80s, it was a rock and all-inclusive. It was the first all-inclusive resort of its kind. And I discovered that I could work there anywhere I wanted. I went and I'm like, I don't want this interview to be 19 hours long. I'm trying to figure out what's the best part of the story to tell. But when I went down there, you could go water skiing and scuba diving. And I fell in love with the culture and the climate and everything about, they had hundreds of them around the world. And the crazy thing for me, and you're going to think this is funny based on the conversation you and I had, but they, unlike cruise ships, they didn't bring in entertainers. They had people who were the staff do the shows every night and they would lip sync, right?
Wow.
Long before lip sync battle. And one day they were lip syncing, I think it was a record back then, to a chorus line. And I always wanted to star in a chorus line. There's a role in there that I wanted. And I could never get it on Broadway because I don't sing. Mm-hmm. But I can lip sync. And so I went to the management and I said, hey guys, how do I do that? How do I work for you so I could do that role? Because they had like an audience of 1,000 people. And they said, well, you'd have to work for Club Med. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's going to work. But there's this thing called an au pair. You can go to a Club Med and you can trade your time for blah, blah, blah. And so I went to a different Club Med and I offered to teach them how to dance, but that wasn't enough. Now, Tony, here's what's crazy story. I get to New York, I get back home to New York, and now I'm obsessed that I want to do this role in a chorus line. I want to lip sync in front of 1,000 people playing this character. And so I went to the Club Med office and I'm so naive that I don't know what's right or wrong. And I said, excuse me, receptionist is there. I said, can I see the person in charge of your entertainment? And she said, oh, you mean Tony Shelley? And I said, yeah, Tony Shelley. He said, did you have an appointment? I said, no, but he's going to want to meet me. I'm 26 years old. He's going to want to meet me. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in Tony Shelley's office and he says, well, what can I do for you? I said, no, it's not what you can do for me. It's what I can do for you. You guys need help. Your dancers are this. And I gave him this whole analysis of how I thought they ran the entertainment department of Club Med. And he looked at me for a little while and he said, how long can you go away for? I said, what do you mean go away? He said, yeah. He said, I have a club in Sonora Bay, Mexico that needs someone like you. And I said, 3 weeks. He said, great, you're booked. I'm like, for what? He said, go do what you do. And it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, go do what you do. Now, here's the funny thing about that. Uh-huh. I had a dream in the back head, a part of my head, that I wanted to be a game show host. And in professional television, Game show hosts were always just men. You think about any game show host, from Hollywood Squares to Dating Game, they're all hosted by guys. I'm like, I want to host a game show. And so I put together, this is my zone of genius. I can look at your company, your product, your idea, and I can fill in the white space. I can always see what's missing. And so I said, at Club Med, the sports go from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. They stop, there's a break, and then there's dinner at 6. And there's never anything to do between 4 and 6 o'clock. I said, you know what? I'm going to take the resources that they have and I'm going to make my own game show. And Monday through Friday, I'm going to have the team build me the Hollywood Squares, the Dating Game, Match Game, Family Feud, and you're going to build the sets and I'm going to do these game shows with the people that are there. And you know what? I did. I landed at Club Med. I went to the chief. Now, they don't have a CEO. They don't have a manager. They call them chief of the village. I went to the chief of the village. I said, hi, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm here from New York to set up your new game show program. I just assumed what I was going to do. And he was like, oh, okay. And I did. And I just went and I took over this whole thing and I made this happen. And now everybody's buzzing about this. At the end of 3 weeks, the same guy who hired me came down to see what we're doing along with the CEO of Club Med. He's like, who is this girl? And then they said, can we hire you to be the chief of entertainment at another club? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's kind of how it started. I talked my way into this. Now, continuing on, I get home and now I discover that they love my consulting skills that I have. I'm in my 20s doing acting, but that I could hop on a charter plane anywhere in the America zone, which was all of the Caribbean and all of Mexico and the United States, to go to a Club Med and do what I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. I mean, I ended up in Turks and Caicos and Dominican Republic and Punta Cana and Jamaica. This was I felt like I was the king of the world. And I would go, I would be able to most people go on a vacation. I would go, right, I get to wear my bikini and make money and have 1,000 people there and dance and sing and do whatever it is I wanted to do. I don't even know how all this happened, but it was an amazing way to live your 20s. And then I had another moment where I said, I want to ski. I've never been skiing. I don't know about you, but we couldn't afford to ski. And in the movies, it always looked like a whole lot of fun. Now, remember when I said when I was really young, I watched a lot of movies? Mm-hmm. Who was your hero in movies growing up? Who did you want to be?
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually grew up in a videotape store as my father's entrepreneurial business. So I got to watch every movie I wanted.
All right. So I wanted to be James Bond.
In the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. That's exactly what we're talking about. I wanted to be James Bond.
Uh-huh.
And I, not a Bond girl, I wanted to have the adventures of James Bond. And I became fixated on what does that mean? So you can imagine when I'm at these Club Meds, I'm learning to scuba dive and water ski and jet ski and all, but I never skied. And I came home one day and I said, how do I go skiing? And no sooner did that happen. I swear to God, this is a crazy thing about manifestation and the rest of my life. But I opened up the newspaper and there was an ad for a thing called Ski View. And Ski View is a new company that licensed lift towers and made billboards out of them. So you're sitting up there and every cross tower, they would put a billboard for Jose Cuervo Tequila or Lipton Soup or whatever. And they decided they wanted to create a bar party at 4 o'clock when skiing is over. How do you drive people into the bar and not go into town, but stay at the lodge? And so the ad said, looking for a Club Med type entertainer. And I thought, it's got my name all over it. So
the signs from the universe. They're so funny.
But I also knew very clearly the first question they were going to ask, because it said must ski, was do you ski? And I don't want to lie. So I did. He said, do you ski? I said, yes. And I said, but just not yet. I didn't say that part out loud. And so I got the job. He said, I want you to create this bar party. We're going to go to 10 mountains around the country, 10-week tour. And we want you to do the kind of games that you do at Club Med, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? There would happen to be a Club Med at a ski resort in Copper Mountain, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I called them up and I said, guys, I'm coming in for 2 weeks. I'm going to learn how to ski. I did. And for 10 years, Tony, I skied every mountain in all of America. My big sponsor was Jose Cuervo Tequila. It was called the Jose Cuervo Games of Winter. And the funny part about this was that we created, now get this, we created an outdoor volleyball game on the ski resort. And you would enter it. It was you got to have either 2 guys and 1 girl or 2 girls and 1 guy, 3-on-3 co-ed snow volleyball. And then you'd come into the bar to get the prizes and blah, 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 and do all of this. Well, one day somebody said something, and ESPN2 came to film this crazy event that we did and make a half-hour TV special out of it. And I'm like 27 years old, and I'm like, this is my big break. I get to be a TV star, right? And they said, no, we can't let you hold the microphone because you don't work for ESPN. I said, well, who does? And they were going to bring in this guy named Russ Francis from the Patriots, and he was going to be their host. And I'm like, huh. And so Russ comes in, not that night, but the next morning, walks up to me and says, hey, nice to meet you. Very nice guy. And he says, so tell me what we're doing. I said, I'll tell you when we're out there. So we get out there, and yeah, this is kind of funny. He literally says, hey, everybody, we're here for the Jose Cuervo Games winner with Forbes Riley. Forbes, tell us about this event. And I kind of grabbed the microphone, and we did this thing for 2 hours. And the next thing you know, next year I get a phone call from, in fact, if I could give you like a tiny little bit of this, it's kind of hysterical that you go, oh my God, can you share this? And I think I can. You're gonna laugh your ass off because you've never seen anybody do what I did here. You're gonna take your control again.
I never heard of snow volleyball. That sounds very interesting.
I know, right? Well, so then we would go into the lodge. This is what the games look like that I played. Check.
I like to drink you with a little salt and lime. Every time we get together, I sure have a good time. You're my friend, you're the best. Me.
That is me with all that hair.
What?
All I want you to do, guys, is put the ski pole on the tip of your finger and keep it up in the air as long as you can.
No, you gotta start acting like it up. Do a crack, crack. Here and there.
Here or there.
You play the role of the duck. I'll be the host. This is how my career started. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but there I am hosting my very first thing. And then, so like I said, Russ Francis comes and we do this. They videotape this whole thing. And it's unbelievable how it started my career. Here, this is the beginning of this. I gotta just share this with you because you're not gonna believe that this is, because it goes into something very powerful. This, I think, is Russ.
3-on-3 co-ed snow volleyball.
The Deuce is proud to present
the Jose Cuervo
Honorary bronze medal.
Forbes, I see us. I don't see it.
Oh, hang on, wrong screen. Hang on a second. I'll do this. I got so excited to share this with you. You see it now?
Pros are in the slot, ready to go. In Colorado for the Jose Cuervo Games of Winter V-ball in the snow. Can you believe that? We're going to ask the host of this crazy event, Forbes Riley, what's going on?
Oh, man, we do this event all over the country. We are playing 3-on-3 co-ed
Oh
snow
my
volleyball.
God.
We have a pro game. You know, we're giving out $1,500 in cash.
Yeah! $1,500, can I join?
You should have come earlier because you guys could have played. And we also, you know what, we have a
So I didn't even know what the hell we were doing. A year later, my friend, they call, ESPN gets on the phone with me and says, we've got something for you. We would like you to host this idea that we've got for the Extreme Games. And I'm like, what's an Extreme Game? And I actually, when they told me how much money they wanted to pay me, my first reaction was, who the hell is this? And then I said, well, why are you even calling me? And they were like, well, because we saw this piece of videotape of what you did, and we've been waiting for this. And we've got this crazy idea. Now, do you remember Stuart Scott from ESPN?
No, I heard him.
Well, because I don't know if you know, I was not that big a big crazy fan of ESPN, but this is what happened. They literally said, we're going to do this thing for the X Games, and nobody really knows that this was me. And I'll share one more piece of videotape, but this is Stuart. This is 1995.
Where they can prove, just like football and basketball players, they are serious competitors who leave as much sweat on the playing field as anyone. Well, for over 400 athletes from 6 continents, this is it. And on this show, every night except Wednesday, a review of the day's best and a look ahead to the next day. Sharing in on the fun, my Extreme Games partner in crime, Forbes Riley. Oh, Forbes.
Hey, Stuart, believe it or not, this place was not just constructed for the Extreme Games. Fort Adams has a history as old as our nation. Now, a little later in our show, we're going to take a tour of this historic landmark. We'll see the cannons, the ghosts of soldiers past, and a maze of secret tunnels that lie beneath this structure. Now, they're totally off limit, but we've got some exclusive footage. Fact.
And I will tell you what, that was year number 1 of the X Games. And I did that for 6 consecutive years. Now, the funny thing is, it's important for all your listeners to watch. That was live. When I got that job, I mean, they paid me like $75,000 for 2 weeks. I don't know anything about sports. I got handed a book of athletes and a book of sports, and I walked into this $10 million compound with all of these trucks and unbelievable cameras and cranes, and I thought, holy shit, they're going to fire me. I'm not qualified to do this. They made a mistake.
You had imposter syndrome, eh?
Massively. Now, that videotape that you just watched, Tony, this was live. Luckily, I went into the production trucks and I made them give me the video, but it was on 3/4 inch. Nobody could play 3/4 inch. I didn't see that videotape. I didn't know how good I really was till 20 years after that moment.
Wow.
And there was a moment where I thought, now I know why they didn't fire her. She's really fucking good. And so that's just one of the mirrors. Isn't it fun that I get to show you? Because who else shows you what they're talking about?
That's okay. This video is important. I mean, this is going to be the video that's going to get you the documentary about yourself. So this will be that video for your next film.
I know. I'm so ready for that. I have stories for days.
That's incredible. So that was really one of your, it seems to me, that was a catalyst moment. Like that really launched you. Because to go to 75,000 for 2 weeks, I mean, now you got money. Now you can do things.
Yeah, no.
No?
No. So here's the funny thing. It didn't amount to a whole lot because it doesn't buy you a movie. It doesn't buy you an agent. It gets you a car and an apartment. But I moved out to Los Angeles in 1991 and I wasn't quite sure how you go about it. Here's the thing. I never slept with anybody to get to where I wanted to go. And that's a problem because I think back then I think that's a lot of what you had to do to get there. And I wasn't willing to do that. But I did a couple of crazy things. So one day I walked into, actually, here's one of the things that changed. I'm 31 years old and I took a self-development training class. I went to one of these webinars, these seminars in person where you are pushed to your limit, where it's experiential, where you discover who you are and what you're made out of. And I paid $1,000 for it, which was just more money than I ever spent on anything. And that was the catalyst that changed my life. That was the beginning of me understanding that I was not this overweight, ugly, fat girl that I kept seeing even when I looked in the mirror, that I had a bigger purpose in life. And then if I pushed it and played a little bigger, things could happen. And so self-development, because I teach that stuff now, 30 years later, I'm committed to helping other people break through their limitations of what their parents told them they couldn't do, what somebody who got raped or molested. And there's some stories in my past too that were traumatic, that kept me thinking that I wasn't worth it and that I was not enough to matter, even though I thought I was. And there was always these conflicts. And so my life for 30 years of it has been the study of the human brain, of neuroscience, of why people behave the way they do. And I don't know if you've been in a room when I've done a breakthrough with somebody. I don't think so.
On stage a few times.
Yeah. And how radically it can change the course of someone's life. And that's what I'm committed to because of all the things I've done on stage and all the awards and things, they're nice. But having that kind of impact, that's what changed me. And so one day I hear of an audition. Now, when you're an actress, you go on a lot of auditions. Now,
I'm sorry, Forbes, can you pause for a second? Whose program was that?
It doesn't exist anymore. Not even going to tell you. It doesn't.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. It was very musical based and it came out of a little bit of Landmark, but it wasn't that. It was its own thing.
Oh, okay.
And I know, right? And so there's two moments. You asked me what catalyst. First catalyst was I walked into a comedy club for an audition, right? And it was I don't know anything about comedy, but I've done stand-up comedy at ski resorts. This was the Laugh Factory. You know what the Laugh Factory is in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
It's the largest comedy club owned by Jamie Masada. It's where everybody, that in the Comedy Store, everybody went there. I don't know anything about comedy clubs. I get on stage and they said, well, just start talking. And I did whatever it is I do. And the woman down there said, can you come with me for a second? He walked me up to this crazy Israeli named Jamie Masada. And he's like, you're very, very good. I like you very much. You're going to be my new host. Every Friday, Saturday night, you open my show. And I'm like, what? And that's really how, and I literally, okay, so think about this. There's no instructions. I went, and I don't know how to tell jokes. So I went and Rita Rudner was an old comic, and I found her comedy routine in like an old Cosmo magazine, and I memorized it. And I get on stage the first night in this comedy club, and I'm doing Rita Rudner, and I thought, how funny am I? And Jamie's like, come here. I'm like, what? He's like, what are you doing? He said, I didn't ask you to be funny. He said, get on stage without a thought in your head, ask somebody where they're from, and give me 10 minutes and introduce the funny people. There's Jerry Seinfeld, Robin Williams, Ellen DeGeneres. They're funny. You're the host. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, let me tell you something. For 3 years, every Friday and Saturday night, I introduced Ellen DeGeneres, Jerry Seinfeld,
Wow.
David Williams. I met every single comedian. I booked all kind of TV shows from that. That was one of the catalysts that changed my life. The second catalyst that radically changed everything, okay, and this is exactly what that was I walked into an audition one day, long before Wolf of Wall Street, and this is sitting on a desk. And it said, sell me this pen. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate selling. Like, I really resent it. I don't think it's fun at all, okay? And so I said, you know, it's a funny thing about pens. But when I was in college, my mom used to write me longhand notes. And I realized a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. And I'll tell you what happened. Body by Jake comes out from the dark, grabs my face, Tony. He said, you're going to make me a lot of money. And I'm like, here's what he had in his head. Cable television had just started. And he created a 24-hour network. Now get this, as a business guy, you'll love this because no one was doing this. He decided on a 1-hour wheel of programming that was going to air 24 times a day. The top of the hour was Tommy Lee Webb doing aerobics. Then it was on healthy eating tips. Then it was Jake and a model. And then the last part was going to be somebody selling fitness products. This is before QVC and before HSN. And I have to do this one more time because you have to see this to believe it. Because I'm sure you were alive during this point, but you're like, wait a second, that was you?
No, this is great. This is very different. It goes from a normal interview on my show to like a presentation interview.
I know,
It's
but
pretty
so,
cool.
All right, well, take a look at this.
I like it.
Total convenience, 24 hours a day. Now get ready for the latest in sports, fashion, and exercise gear on Fitness Plus.
This is a classic.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and today we've got a great product for you. Take a look at this. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and backed by popular demand, the best way to develop rock-hard abdominals. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Fitness Plus. Now, if you want to burn calories and tune your whole body, all in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So I'm feeling my thighs work. I love this.
The pads close against the flywheel.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Fitness Plus. Today, we're introducing you to the most diversified, balanced, and personally designed workout for the 90s. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley.
So this is just a sample of the 1,500 different products. I wrote the pitch for every one of these. There's the Bread Man, there's a Teeth Whitener, there's Slam Man. These guys would come from all around, everybody, including Tony Little and Suzanne Summers with their product, because there was no QVC at the time. And I would write their pitch, because I intuitively, Tony, I don't know what it is about me. I understand this world of pitching. And today, fast forward, you ask what was a catalyst? I teach what I call the ultimate pitch formula, how I wrote all of those things and how I understood this. Well, here's the funny thing about this. Jake sold this network to Fox TV for $500 million.
Wow.
In 1993.
Jeez.
From that, launched the world of infomercials. Now, I know you had a guest on recently that I've done 20 some odd infomercials with.
Yeah, Kevin Harrington.
Well, Kevin Harrington and I were there at the exact same time. I hosted one of the first infomercials ever done. I've now hosted 194 of them. And I write the pitches, I've hosted them. And then one day I got a phone call. I had just given birth to my 2 babies. I was now 42 years old, fast forward a little bit. And I get a phone call to go host the Jack LaLanne Power Juice. You remember Jack LaLanne?
Mm-hmm. That
infomercial grossed $1 billion.
Wow.
All of a sudden I stepped into a world where we were printing money. And that's when now my acting career didn't take off that way, although I did a lot of movies and stuff, but I'll tell you what, my infomercial career skyrocketed.
So you're saying Body by Jake was actually the predecessor to the infomercial, what he was doing?
Oh my God. Yeah. Let me share here. Jake had already created this whole network was before infomercials ever happened.
What was it called? Body by Jake Network?
No, it was called Fit TV.
Oh, Fit TV.
It was first called the Cable Health Club, and then it was Fit TV. Yep. And from that, that's where all our infomercials, that's where home shopping started. I mean, there were a lot of people. You know how everyone has a great idea and it pops up in different places?
Yeah.
So, you know, the guy, Roy Spears, the guy who technically started QVC and HSN, he had a moment where he'd sold toasters to pay off a debt. And that was one of the things that started that network. And the guy, so there was a lot of moments of people popping and starting to do these half-hour infomercials and selling products. But I helped create the whole concept of selling fitness on television.
Wow. Where does Kevin Harrington's role, where does he fit into the story?
So he, in the early 90s as well, he has a whole nother part of the world. He was down here in Florida. He had also, so we all kind of knew each other because there was a whole Carnival Barker thing where people just beginning to sell products. And he also just had this idea that it was the same time that HSN, it's hard to explain. His first infomercial had to do with cutting a knife.
Yeah. From Philadelphia, the guy, he said he found it.
Right. And so he bought airtime and my guys bought airtime. We were in California. He was in Philadelphia. And then somehow the next thing you know, boom, infomercials started to happen.
Wow.
And at the time, there were very few companies. There were about 4 or 5 companies. And it was just kind of how it happened. It was crazy. I mean, I ended up doing one for Billy Blanks from Tybo. I mean, the list is endless. It's absolutely endless. I was there when Beachbody started, and now they're this billion-dollar company. I was there when Suzanne Summers and Tony Little, and I did infomercials with all of them.
That's amazing. Forbes, your story is just incredible. So all right, before we get into the question, I just want to wrap this up with the story part. So you eventually started doing a lot of things with Kevin, which is a part of your story.
Well, okay, so here, if you want to get really technical about it, hang on a second, because it does become a bit of a presentation. Here is Kevin. To tie your world back to go, there's Mr. Kevin. And there's a very funny story how Kevin and I both launched a whole business together based on this.
Folks, she's talking about Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He was the original shark from Shark Tank, the first 2 seasons.
And I was friends with Kevin long before any of that happened. We probably did about 12 infomercials together, owned TV studios together. We did a TV show called America's Real Deal together. We've done countless deals together. So there's Grant, who there's me and George Foreman. Me and Mario Lopez did shows. I know now it's turning into a bit of a presentation. And then remember I said about Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Well, so I brought Kim to Kevin and we did this show. You've never probably seen this before, but the steam iron Kevin and I did together. And this is how Kim started her career. You're going to notice in this little piece of videotape that she has never been on TV before. Invited a top Hollywood stylist who's known to be the closet organizer to the stars. Please welcome my dear friend, Kim Kardashian.
You've seen her in all the magazines and on the E! Entertainment Network with her best friend Paris. Beautiful Kimberly Kardashian is a model and film and TV wardrobe stylist. Plus, she's busy with her 2 businesses doing celebrity closet makeovers and her upscale fashion store Dash in Southern California. What does this fashion pro think of the all-new Pressabella?
I'm in the fashion business, so it's really important for me to make clothes look great quickly.
So I had just done an infomercial with her dad, Bruce Jenner, for some vitamins, and became friends with them and Chris. And I remember I got invited over to the house. The girls were little. Who knew the girls on the bed that I was hanging out with would grow up to be Kendall and Kylie? And Chris said to me, can you get my daughter on television? And Kevin and I were doing a steam iron show at the time. I brought her down here to Florida and boom, we did this.
Wow. That's just the incredible story. It's like you're connected to so many different levels of major things that have happened in the past 20 years or so. So
yes, I am. So there's my daughter on the left. There's John Travolta in the middle there. Who else do I have that? Anybody else? And then of course Les Brown. I mean, I can go on and on about the people whose lives touch me. Yeah, it does deserve a movie. Of Joy. Did you see the movie Joy, by the way?
Maybe. I watched so many. I used to watch so many movies. I started forgetting the titles.
Well, this is a movie about our dear friend Joy Mangano, who was also grew up on Long Island, and she started the Steam Mop and had a very successful business. Jennifer Lawrence played her. I would love the story of my life to be done, because I'll tell you what, you haven't even seen the part of it, because this all takes a very interesting turn. So I'm in California. I meet the man that I'm going to marry when I'm 31 years old. He is a 6'6" Notre Dame football player. His dad is vice president of the Teamsters. And we get married and we try to have children. Now it's kind of weird. Can I take a turn that goes away from my career for a second and share?
Absolutely. This is your stage. Totally for you, Forbes. Stage. I feel like I'm on Clubhouse sometimes. I'm sorry. This is your this is my show, your interview. I'm sorry. I don't know where I am sometimes. All right. Thank you, Forbes.
Isn't it kind of fun that I can see? We don't get to see each other. You didn't know any of these things, and nor would you. How would I be able to show any of this to people, right?
Forbes, we're going to tell our story in a little bit. We're going to add how like we've connected on Clubhouse, which has become a major part of both of our stories. But this is a good predecessor.
All right, so I'm going to totally change gears for a second and move into another part of my world. So I go through, I'm about 40 years old, and my mom calls me and she's got cancer. And I just auditioned for a show and I ended up getting a big dog game show, but I now am torn between, do I stay in California and work? Do I come home and take care of my mom? 6 months later, my dad calls and says he's got cancer. And I don't know that within a year, I'm going to lose both of my best friends. They're going to both die. And my dad passes away in December. And then my mom, right before 9/11 hits, we all go through 9/11. My brother-in-law's a New York City fireman. And I grew up with all the guys. A quarter mile north of the World Trade Center is the Bowery Fire Station. And I grew up with all those guys, spent a lot of time in their firehouse. And when the second building came down, they all perished. And except my brother-in-law, who happened to be at home that day. It was his day off. And so we went through this massive tragedy together. And that end of that year, by December, we'd done a bike tour. We put them on, they did a Thank You America tour. So it happened in September. By December, we were all just burnt out. And I was really sad and thought, I don't know what I'm doing here anymore. I've lost so much. I want to have a baby. And my husband and I had been trying at the time and it wasn't working. And I found a little article in my health magazine for a $10,000 in vitro coupon. And I said, let's roll the dice. And we did. Wow. And I ended up getting pregnant with twins. And I delivered them on December 4th. 6 months after that, now my ex-husband and I had been raising a little boy from South Central, a little black kid named Dexter Rideout, who spent every weekend with us, who was best man at my wedding, who was my son until I had my own kids.
You had adopted him before you had your own kids, right? No?
I did not adopt him. We got him to the Little Brother, Big Brother program. He had a mom, no dad.
Okay.
But he spent every weekend with us, lived at our home. And so I don't know, there's no word for this. He's not a foster kid. He didn't get adopted by me, but he was my son. How much more, every weekend, every vacation, every holiday, Dexter was my kid.
Yeah.
And 6 months, it was July, after my babies were born, he was going to come see us. He was getting his hair cut on his way to church. And he lived with his mom part-time right outside of USC. And he was wearing blue one Sunday morning, and 3 kids were trying to get into a gang, drove up behind him. One kid jumped out and shot my Dexter 10 times in the back and left him for dead on the sidewalk.
Wow. Sorry to hear that, Forbes. How old was he?
He was just turning 20.
Oh, man.
He'd never gotten any gangs. He had no tattoos. He had no babies. And the kid who killed him, a guy named Michael, had already had 2 babies, was trying to get into a gang so he could belong. And he did what he did. 3 years through a murder trial, for trying to find the guy. We put out a lot of, warrants. And anyway, finally found him, went through a murder trial, and he's spending 52 years to life in jail. You don't want to see your wedding. I saw my wedding photo on the cover of the LA Times. Like, you see all these people that you don't know. I know every time I see a shooting and go through this, I am reminded that that was part of my story. And after that, my life did not look, like I said, remember, you want to see the tip of the iceberg. You didn't see it now. You don't know what's underneath it. I was lost. And I had these 2 kids. I was living in we had a beautiful home in Los Angeles, but it was on a half an acre, but it was only a 2-bedroom house and it was small. And my husband and I said, we need to build something bigger. The kids are going to grow up, and what do we do? And an architect said to me, well, I'll knock your house down and we can build it out of wood, because it was a cinder block house, for 1,000 square feet more for the same price, blah, 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 but you got to knock it down. It's $25,000 to knock it down. I said, well, it's hard to get a mortgage on something you're going to knock down. I don't know, I have that kind of money lying around. But then I said, Tony, and this is the joy of my personal life, of being an out-of-the-box thinker at all turns. And I said, can't we blow it up? Said,
blow it up? What?
Well, we live in Hollywood. Mel Gibson blew up a house for Lethal Weapon. Let's freaking blow it up. And he said, well, I don't know how to do that. I said, I said, don't say, in my world, we don't say, I don't know. We just figure it out. So I went on the internet and I said, I need someone to blow up my home. It was December of 2008. 3 days later, the movie Die Hard with Bruce Willis, Live Free or Die Hard, it says, well, we'll blow your house up if you could be out in 8 days. I said, you know what? I've been through so much shit. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a price tag on everything in my house. I'm going to open the doors and have a living estate sale, buy everything, get rid of everything. And I know you're going to go, wait
a minute. They blew up your house for Die Hard. Come on. Really? Oh, wow. I got to see this.
Is this your house we're in front of?
No, it's my house you're blowing up.
Oh.
This is my mini documentary. So my children who are 4-year-olds right now go, what did you do to my house, Mommy? So what's happening?
Forbes, I never heard this story.
Setting up to blow up your little house.
Yeah, you're gonna blow up our house. So Mike, come here, come in the light. Talk to me. What are you gonna do to our house?
This is your house.
It's my house.
Your house.
Yeah, see these kids, it's their bedroom you're blowing up.
Little fire out of it.
Yeah?
Yeah. For Christmas.
Okay, you know what happens to their house?
Blowing up your kitchen. We're blowing the kitchen up. So what you see here is the bottom order is going to blow propylene, which is a nice orange black gas that will be ignited.
Sort of like propane, but only.
It's kind of weird. This is really funny. You've met my daughter McKenna. This is her.
Yeah.
This is her at 4 years old. Weird, huh? How about now? This used to be your room. See how pretty this room is? How wonderful this is. In fact, behind the door, this was Mommy when she was pregnant with her twins. Wow. But now, Kenny, look at your room. There's explosives and all kinds of things are sitting in your room. Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about your room being blown up?
No.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
Why?
Because I like it.
What do you like?
Our house.
Yeah? Are you going to be sad that it's blown up or happy?
Sad.
You're going to get a new house, though. Is that good?
I want this room.
You want this room with all this fun stuff? How about we make you a new room, okay?
No.
Oh, should we tell the guys to go home?
I like this house and take all the stuff back.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'm just going to take a walk down here and see all the things in our street, guys. That's going on in our block right now. How crazy it is. Come on, let's come take a look. As all the equipment arrives, what looks to be a major studio shoot.
Wow.
In the middle of this, there's two beautiful little kids trying to figure out what's happening to their house.
How much they pay you for this?
What's happening to the Riley house? Yes.
Okay, show it over, folks. Cover your ears, guys. Really loud. No flash. Let's solo cameras. Rolling.
That was your house.
That was my house. I'm still laughing about it.
Oh, geez.
That scene that you're looking is the opening scene of Live Free or Die Harder, the Die Hard #5 series.
Wow.
I know, right?
You know, Bruce Willis, they say he's from Philly. He's actually from outside Philly, but we give him a little credit.
So I'll tell you what, it was pretty amazing. The neighbors were cool about it. It was a big deal. They paid well more than $25,000 to blow it up. They tore it down. But you want to hear the crazy part about this, Tony? You happen to remember December 2008?
Yeah, it was the. Do I remember it? Yeah, I remember it very well, actually. Yeah.
Right. I just blew up all the equity on my property.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. And so what happened was we had that main house was gone. I had a little guest house and a little tiny office in the very back. And for the next 2 years, that's where my entire family lived, in the little guest house in the back, because we blew up our house.
Hey, the land was worth something though, right?
Oh, no, let me tell you something. We ended up we invested in a company called Living Homes, and we put in an all green recycled prefab home that they built. They drove it up the freeway, and Governor Jerry Brown did a tour of my house because it's so historic. And I sold the property for 3 times what I bought it for. So it all worked out fine. And that's one reason I moved out to Florida, because by now in my career, I am already doing a lot of live home shopping and crushing it. And then there's the story of the SpinGym and how I created a fitness product that I've sold 2.2 million of that nobody wanted, that they told me I should go home, that it was a stupid idea. Remember, I told you it's been a long life. I don't think we can fit this into one show.
Hey, we're doing great so far. No. Yeah, I've heard some other stories too that I'm sure you'll probably bring up at a certain point. The Las Vegas thing, that was incredible. I heard about. You were on an interview. You were telling about that. It's up to you if you want to share that.
Oh, let me condense a little bit of this, because this is really not the Forbes Riley show. Although I would love to, Tony, in all kidding aside, I have videotape of a lot more things I'm not sharing with you. And if anybody watching this does think it's interesting, I'd love your feedback, because I do think I want to do either a live show or a documentary or something, because there's so many fascinating stories and I'm not finished. Some of the stories get even more extraordinary. One of them is falling in love for the second time in your life, right? How do you meet somebody and fall in love and have him be the greatest thing that you've ever seen, both physically and emotionally? Because I think a lot of women, I talk to women who are single at the second half of their lives, and when you're in your 50s, it's not like Prince Charming just comes walking through your door, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happened for me, because I'm a huge believer in manifesting, like huge. So let me fast forward, because I do have this crazy fitness product that I took from nothing, absolutely nothing. I have a story. I have a video that will blow you away about how I fought U.S. Customs before they almost crushed my entire company. And I snuck a video camera to explain how I had to redo 44,000 SpinGyms with a crew of 8 people before they threw out my products and destroyed my company. So do you want that story or the story of Mr. Handsome? I mean, seriously,
Let's hear about Mr. Handsome.
Yeah. All right. So in short, here's the story. Because otherwise we're all going to go really old listening to Forbes Riley share her life. So I created SpinGym. I was in Las Vegas. I'm now 57 years old. After the death of Dexter, my ex and I, he took it really hard, and it kind of destroyed the relationship that we had. And we're still best friends and we're business partners, but it was hard to maintain. I think any couple that goes through the loss of a child has their own challenges. And so I was single for a long time, raising 2 beautiful kids.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, he and I are still friends, but I wanted more in my life. I really wanted to live out the fairy tale. I'd seen the movies where Prince Charming comes along, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to be a power couple and to have I look at Randy Gerber and Cindy Crawford, and I thought, I want a beautiful, amazing man in my life. But I don't go to bars. I didn't really like Tinder. And so what do? Well, I'm in Las Vegas, and I'm shooting an infomercial for my fitness. Just shooting like some random videos in a hotel room. And my videographer, who's just recently passed away, said to me, hey, do you want to meet a 2-time Mr. Arnold world champion bodybuilder? I'm like, to do this? Yeah, a little overkill, don't you think? And he said, no, he's a friend of mine. He'll come on over. I'm like, okay, fine. And so I'm in this hotel room, and
wait, he's Mr. Olympian?
He's a 2-time Arnold champion. He's an Olympian competitor. He's not won that title yet. He's going to get back for it one more time.
Wow.
But in walked Joshua. Can you see a picture of Joshua?
Yeah, I didn't know he had all that. Wow, that's incredible.
Oh, not only that, but he's got the most amazing program on how to build muscle. And so, wait, there's another here. This is what he looks like at the moment. Yeah, he's pretty shredded. And so, damn, right? I know. Poor me.
Hi, Forbes.
What do you think, Tony? Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's been a great love story. It's been 5 years. He has an interesting story too. So his dad, he's the younger brother of 2 from Columbus, Ohio. His dad was killed when he was 2 years old. His dad was killed in a car crash. The mom marries the dad's brother, kind of a small town thing to do so he can help raise the boys. And when Joshua was 15, his stepfather was killed in a car crash. Now, I don't know many people who lose 1 dad or 2 dads before they're 15 years old. And he has a tremendous sense of loyalty. And he is a 3D graphic artist and a videographer. And he's also a competitive world champion bodybuilder. In fact, he's a state champion. He just got a letter today inviting him back to his high school to be honored, which I thought was pretty crazy. And he looked at me and he pursued me. We talked over the internet for a month after we met. And he came out to California, and I'm sorry, but I can't stop staring at this man. He's pretty spectacular. And he fell in love first, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. I'm like, what did you want? He said, I wanted a best friend. I wanted somebody who was smart and amazing. He already had a daughter and a stepson by someone else that he'd grown apart from. And I'll tell you what, we are inseparable. And so here's what happened. He came out to meet me in California, and we had this beautiful week together. And then I went out, he was living in Las Vegas, and I went out to see him. And at the time, I wanted to meet Grant Cardone. Nobody knew who Grant was 4 years ago, but I'd heard about him, and something about him said, I just want to know this guy. And I meet Grant and Elena, and they invite us to the foundation room on a Sunday night for a party. And we get up there, we have and Kevin Harrington's in the room. Kevin and I have the most amazing intertwined story. We are definitely joined in some spiritual thing somewhere. And there's Joshua. Hi. We're just talking about you. Come here for a second. He just walked in. Why don't you say hi to Tony?
Joshua, you got to sign the release form.
Hi.
Let me see this guy.
Have a seat for one quick second. He just came home from the gym.
Jeez.
So
wow. What's up, Joshua? How are you, sir?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm telling him the entire story of my life.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, it's been a long story. Lots of things. Wait, so you're here so I don't speak out of turn. Who fell in love with who first?
Oh, I produced this relationship.
And we're just getting up to the point he asked me about Las Vegas.
What about it?
Well, what happened, because he interviewed Kevin. That's why I was talking about Kevin. He knows Grant Cardone. What happened on October 1st?
That's in the past. I don't bring up the past. What's the point?
Okay. Well, then how about you tell everybody what you like about Forbes Riley?
I just love you for who you are. You're special. She's like no other person I've ever met. And she's very caring, and she loves to help people. And if I can help love her, then she helps love other people and allow them to reach their potentials and get over the dramas and strategies that has happened in their life. So I feel like I have a purpose in life.
That's beautiful. I like the way you said that. I've heard that Doria, I believe it was Doria Cordova, her husband had said something similar to that as well. I mean, there's a lot of very famous people that have situations similar in that regards. And as long as you have a purpose and you can help other people, what I don't know, Viktor Frankl, Forbes?
I don't.
Yeah, he wrote one of the top books called Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor for 4 years. And he said there was 3 major purposes people live for. They live for themselves, they live for their family, they live for their work. And the third one was hard to interpret. I interpreted my last book as they live for the struggle. So, Josh, I think, you're living for your family. That's at least one of your purposes. If you have the other 2 as well, I mean, you're solid, you're well to go. So.
Hey, Tony, I'm just going to I know you just got home. I know you need something to eat, but hang on one quick second. So all is not what you see, because I didn't get to this point of the story, but 2 years ago, January 2nd, Josh was in a horrific motorcycle accident, crushes his foot, his ribs, spends 6 months in a wheelchair, loses all of his muscle. And he woke up in June of 2020 and said, I'm going to go for Mr. Olympia in a year. And he completely rebuilt his body.
Josh, how much do you bench press, Josh?
I don't bench press.
Now, Tony, this is another conversation. He has his own way of doing things.
Oh, really?
Real quick, he does no sit-ups, no push-ups, no pull-ups, and very little cardio.
So I'm a master trainer. So there's certain exercises that we have been taught to do growing up, like deadlifts and squats and dips and incline press. I could go on. And the truth is that they're either inefficient or they have health issues to them. So all my exercises are based on biomechanics, natural movements. A bench press creates a linear motion, which means that the muscle can't fully contract because it loses about 20% range of motion. So I don't do a traditional barbell bench press.
But what he does works. Right, he just got home and he's to eat something.
The other day I did do 410 pounds 4 times. So.
Wow. Hey, Josh, you do any martial arts?
I was a wrestler growing up as a kid. It's my best sport. But then I fell in love with Michael Jordan and became a basketball player. I know a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
I wrestled too, 4 years back in high school. Once a wrestler, you're always a wrestler, they say, huh?
I was undefeated for 8 years.
Wow, that's great.
All right, nice meeting you.
You too, Josh.
We just have to take up a fund so we can buy him a shirt that fits. So yeah, his timing was kind of perfect. I happen to have him up on the screen and he walks in, he just got back from the gym.
That's awesome. All right, Forbes, I've lost total track of wherever we were.
All right, well, I have it because here's what I want to share with you guys. So all along, all this wonderful path, let's get up to where we are right now.
Yeah.
Because
I got the questions too. Don't forget, Forbes.
Right. So I decided that I wanted to be a speaker. I'd met Grant. We survived the October 1st shooting, and that's kind of not a great story. But I now speak on stages with Les Brown and Deepak Chopra, and I decided that I wanted to be an amazing motivational female speaker. You get to hear some of that through Clubhouse. Clubhouse, by the way, happened when Joshua got hurt. It was my savior. It was my real outlet because I could stay up all night and just go somewhere else and talk to people and be motivating. And I've always wanted to do that anyway. And it really took a nice turn. I now have just crossed over 49,000 followers.
Wow.
And still doing infomercials, still doing products, still doing SpinGym. But I started, because of the whole pandemic thing, started coaching and teaching pitch. My daughter and I started this company and we launched it in May of 2020. It grossed $1 million in the first year of being in business with an 18-year-old at the helm of the company that you're gonna get to talk to her next week again. And we just changed everything. We've had 12,000 students since we started. And so between Clubhouse, my coaching program, I still own a television studio and we produce, courses and trainings for people. I produce here. I actually also have this one more quick little video because I did build this TV studio here in St. Pete. And one of the first people that I went into business with was, guess who? Kevin Harrington.
That's your best friend.
I'll tell you what, it's a very small world, him and I certainly honor his business acumen. He's very smart. I've known his family forever. And, we just have these crazy, amazing stories.
Yeah, you guys are like brother and sister, pretty much. You've been through so much together, right?
Yes, I'll tell you what, we have. In fact, he was, that's a great way to look at it. So I built this studio and you'll see Kevin in the video, which is pretty funny, but I own this television studio and it's one of the 2 national talk shows that I did. And it looks a little like this. Hi, everybody. I'm Forbes Riley and welcome to Forbes Living, where we make the world your stage. Sorry, I forgot to share. You have to hit the share button. I'm so excited about doing that. Hang on one quick second and make sure you're sharing the right screen. Can you see it now? Hi, everybody. I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Forbes Living, where we make the world your stage. From being in movies and commercials to hosting television shows, my career, it's allowed me to see the world and to talk to real people about their hopes, their dreams. And what I wanted to do here was to create a show that allowed me to give them an opportunity to change their lives. And that's what this is all about.
I graduated from Duke I got a degree in physics, but I just love making music. So I moved out to San Francisco, started a record label, Blue House Records.
See, the thing about me is that I've always looked out for the little guy or the working mom. But you didn't start out in the cookware business. What did you do before this?
I was a roofing contractor.
Okay, how does that become cookware? I often say that you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome.
About 12 years ago, we had no money for college. I mean, zero.
I was 210 pounds about 6 months ago. I started using my 185-pound plate.
Wow.
And I'm 185 pounds.
I had a brain aneurysm, birthed my twins, and I just I was so sick, so run down. Taking these essential oils and using that every day in the hospital was the only thing that really, really got me through.
So what we've got here is a new kind of talk show. It's entertaining, it's educational, but truly at the core, it's about making people's dreams come true. My goal with the show is to give people a platform where they can tell their story, share their idea with the world, and we created Forbes Living.
Kevin Harrington here, an original shark from Shark Tank. I think one of the biggest things I learned from being on Shark Tank is that there's an incredible amount of innovative ideas out there, but very few places to really showcase them. We would get over 50,000 submissions, but only 200 of them would end up making it on the show. The other side of that is that it takes a very keen eye to spot a really great idea. And Forbes is someone who has that sensibility. She's always been one step ahead of the industry, and Forbes Living is a chance for her to give those 49,000 plus ideas a home.
And there you go.
So you have this massive studio next to your house, I guess, in Florida, and that's where you make you're making these videos for your brand, for your
Well, actually, this
Forbes Living.
studio is in an industrial park. It's a 5,000 square foot freestanding building, and we do a lot of things there. So you can make movies and television there. Yeah, it's not in my house. It's definitely a one of a kind concept. It's amazing. But
Wow.
I'll tell you what, like I said, at some point in my life, we were printing money. That's what you do on television.
You got to come to Philly. We have the first person who did that in our country. You know, the great, you know, he is Ben Franklin. He's on the $100 bill.
That's right. He definitely printed money. That's very funny.
They could do. You could do a tour here too on Second and I think it's Second and Market or Chestnut. That's where his house was, and they had the printing shop right next door.
Oh, I would love to do that. That sounds. And so now, you know, you kind of bring it full circle. I work with my daughter. She and I are in business together, travel around the world, loving on Joshua, and now just helping people, definitely coming full circle. And Clubhouse is a part of that. And Tony, you've been a part of my entire story.
Thank you, Forbes. I appreciate that. And yeah, we're going to tell the story in just a moment. First thing I want to do before we get to Clubhouse. So we're going to pivot now. I want to just briefly talk about your books. So can you give us a quick summary of your books, and maybe you have some copies you'd like to share?
Well, that's a little more complicated. Actually, I do have one little thing I will share with you. Something did just happen 2 weeks ago. And that was I got issued an honorary doctorate. There is that.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
That's one part of it. And then the other part that also showed up because they honored the honoring was I got this in the mail. I mean, it was part of the event, but they just looked at me. And this is a Lifetime Achievement Award to Dr. Forbes Riley from the President of the United States.
What? Wow.
I know, right? You can't.
What's that for?
For all the work, all the stuff that I've just told you. Apparently, well, I've left out a lot, Tony. It's been a very long 62 years. It's a lot of work that I do that I don't talk about that has affected a lot of people. And so, yes, I have, you know, I certainly have books and products and a lot of things that I can share with everybody, but we don't talk about some of the things that I do, but apparently the world knows about some of it. So that's been the big honor 2 weeks ago. That all happened. And I feel very grateful that anybody noticed, and it just inspires me to keep going. I have a date to speak at the UN now, and I have a lot of, you know, we're not talking politics, but I have a lot of theories and thoughts about being a mom, being a woman in the world, about how we should help each other, what being generous means, what being conscious means. It's not political, it's human. And I think a lot of us have forgotten that. So I feel very blessed to have been loved on by amazing people. And my goal while I'm on the planet is to pay it forward as much as I can.
That is incredible. First of all, congratulations on both fronts, being Dr. Forbes Riley and the other award that you just were recently given. That's really cool. I actually I was an intern at the White House. Another thing I don't really talk about when I was in college, because I went to school in DC. And they gave me something similar to that, but it was for everyone. So to have one that's sent specifically to you, this is the reason I'm saying this, is because I know how special that must be. Because they only do it when it's really, really special. So that's pretty cool.
What was funny is I got given this award when I went to Atlanta, Georgia to receive a very powerful pomp and circumstance. And you wear all the gowns, and I couldn't believe how emotional this was. And I met Billy Mitchell, the state representative from Georgia, and he's invited me back in June. I was the only one who gave a speech during the entire event. And it was a powerful honor. Again, this is one of the cool things about sticking with what you love long enough and becoming well known at it. Is the respect that comes with it, is the ability to make a difference. And I'm so grateful for what I get to do.
Thank you, Forbes. All right, Forbes, I appreciate that. So we got about 20 questions or so. I figure about a minute, 2 minutes each, and I think we'll make good timing. Okay. Let's talk about Clubhouse, okay? So Clubhouse, folks, if you don't know, I actually met, well, I knew of you before Forbes, but I met Forbes Riley, like our first conversation was on what was called the longest running room in Clubhouse. Now, in order to ask you the question, Forbes, I have to pivot and just tell the quick story. Is that okay? Just briefly. All right. So it was a Friday, roughly 2 years ago, roughly a year ago. I jumped in a room. There was about 12 people left on a club that normally runs for a few hours, and no one else wanted to run the room anymore. So they're like, all right, you want to host the room? Like, okay, let's see what I got. And I cleared my whole schedule out for like 3 hours. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And next thing you know, the room just starts gradually growing to 100 to 200. And then like around 250. And I kept saying the whole way too, I'm like, some celebrity's going to come here. I got to feel like Forbes Riley. She's on the app all the time. I got to feel Forbes is going to be here. And I was manifesting this internally, and I didn't even realize it. And and then all of a sudden she walks in, and then the shark from Canadian Shark Tank, what's that called? Dragon's Den. Arlene Dickinson shows up. But Forbes, you were the main actress the whole time. And the stage just blows up. I mean, it goes past 500. I was on my feet for 10 hours that night. And it was like 2:30 in the morning, my time, when I finally passed the mic to someone else. I go back to bed. I wake up, the room's still running. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And it still had like 400 people in there. They're like, oh, we're going to beat the record for the longest running room on Clubhouse. And next thing you know, 31 days later, they already beat the record, and it's still going. It goes on for 84 days straight. It's incredible. And I want to thank Forbes for doing this, because she was really the catalyst of that night. It impacted over 1 million people from what I've heard, people who've actually done the data with that.
Well, so what happened was it was my birthday, and this is a picture from that night. There's McKenna and me.
Yeah, she was in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, we're in Costa Rica. We're on the top of a mountain. I'm at a resort, and I said to a couple of people there, I said, this app is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. Like, well, what is it? I said, well, just watch. I can go into a room and get modded, and I'm trying to explain it to them. And then you were there. You graciously asked me a question. The next thing you know, McKenna pops on, and it was her first time on the app. She's like, Mom, I don't really want to do this. And people started asking her questions, because she is an entrepreneur who's been in business for 7 years. Wow. At the time, she was only 18. She's already grossed a lot of money. It was unbelievable what she tracked. And it was so bonding for the two of us to spend 4 hours fielding questions. You kept saying, you guys want to answer a couple more? You're going to be okay? And I was like, yeah, because what else do we have to do? We're in the middle of a jungle in Costa Rica. There's no TV. There's no entertainment. And it was such a momentous moment and a blessed way to spend my birthday. So thank you.
And Forbes, you're welcome, Forbes. And thank you, by the way. It was kind of strange though, how like when I was about to turn the mic over, I think you had entered a cave or something, and you're like, all right, and it just goes quiet, and we're like, Forbes, you're like, all right, I can't talk anymore, but everyone have a great night. We've had a fantastic time. And then you just shut off the microphone, and we were all worried about you the next day. We're like, well, okay, that's great. The longest running room, but where's Forbes? Is she okay?
This is another visual from that experience, which it's the only problem with Clubhouse. You can't show all these fun pictures. I put them on Instagram, but we really spent 2 months living in Costa Rica. We loved it so much.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think you're the head of your mastermind guy. He came in, that was the first night. He kept coming back for like 4 or 5 months straight ever since then.
Oh yeah, we have Fred. I mean, we have a whole bunch of team members who love your room. We love Fred Moskowitz. We've got Phyllis Pieri. We've got Kara Allen. Yeah, we've made a nice little tribe there, all of us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So how's it feel to be a part of that room though? I mean, because now we got next Friday is the 1-year anniversary, Forbes, and you're going to be coming back. You're going to be the main guest speaker. Finally, this interview's here. Finally, we got you. You've been the honorary co-host since then, but this is the first time we're actually going to put the spotlight on you. I mean, how's it feel to be a major part of this amazing community?
Don't you wish we could show video now that you've seen what you've seen? I know, really. You know, I love Clubhouse. I can't express to you how, for me, it was the perfect meld. Number one, I don't have to wear any makeup, which is a woman on television is really nice. I could go on in the middle of the night, and I've got friends. I mean, Tony Rodriguez, who introduced me to this, he and Tony Robbins and I have been friends forever. And Tony said, you know, I'm going to invite you to this Clubhouse platform. I'd gotten a whole bunch of invites before that and thought it was like some network marketing scam. I mean, I got invited by Sharon Lecter and Les Brown. I'm like, what is this bullshit? And the first night that I was on, I had so many friends, and I could hear the truth in people's voices. I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk and connect. And I give great speeches. I'm like, oh shit, I got a lot of things I could do here. And the next thing you know, it was like, for me, it was a perfect storm. I've made more friends, deepened more relationships, changed the shape of my business, and found a purpose. I mean, I will go on probably once a day. Glenn Lundy and I met many years ago. He was one of my first guests on my podcast that I've had for 10 years. He's got Breakfast with Champions. I've got you on Friday nights, and some celebrities that I've introduced.
But what's your favorite stage though? What's your favorite one out of all?
Hello, the one that There is no second choice. Are you kidding? You know how honored it is? You know, for those people who don't even understand, Tony, I was there before mod was a thing. Before I mean, I was there. When did you join, by the way?
So Sharon Lechter nominated me February 3rd, and Laura Langmeyer was the day before, February 2nd.
Of 2020?
2021, but I didn't really become big on there until that very first day that we just talked about.
So I joined the year before in 2020.
Oh, wow.
No, no, that's not possible. I'm sorry. That's not true.
Yeah, it could have been December or something, right?
No, it was actually, I guess, January of 21 then. Okay, God, that seems so weird. Really? I just have to look at my phone and figure out when I did join because it's on there. But until when we all first started, what was great about it was the Wild West.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what this app was. And so we helped build the concept of what it means to mod a room, there were so many things that were not there that we all take for granted right now. And so what does it say? It says January 6, 2021. Yeah. Okay. And I would do 20 hours a day. I couldn't get
really?
enough. Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was my drug of choice because I needed to connect. So we were still stuck in our homes. It was the worst, weirdest time at some point. It had already been a year of you stuck in your house. And I was
COVID. Yeah.
Yep. So there you go.
Wow. So what, like, I know that you have, Clubhouse has impacted you very similar to me, but I think for you a little bit deeper. How has Clubhouse changed your life? And I'm sure you'll probably bring up the story how you got on stage with Damon John and all that stuff too. So what's the main ways?
All right, so you're right. So January 6th, I joined. I have these little crusades and visions that I have. And one of them was that I was tired of all the big motivational speakers being men. And I was getting very vocal about this. And I said, guys, I'm looking at Gary Vee and Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Damon John. I'm like, where's the girls? And I said that one night in a room. The next morning, I got a message from a company called Real Summits. And they said, hey, would you like to be a headliner in our tour? And I thought, okay. Well, Tony, they then sent me a picture of me headlining their tour. And you know who I'm in between? Damon John, Jack Canfield, all the big guys. And
Les Brown.
It was like, you've got to be kidding me, really? And I have been on that tour every month since then. We've enrolled thousands and thousands of students because of this. And it was what I just said one night on a random Clubhouse. How's that possible? And so
I didn't know that. I'm sorry, Forbes. So you, that was the stage you were on. And when you were telling about Real Summits, I didn't make the connection. So you've been on that stage consistently since that first time? I mean, do you do this every month? Because I know you got the next one up with Dr. John DeMartini.
That is January 19 to 20. That was me right there in the center. See that picture?
Wow.
Every single month since then.
Deepak.
Yeah. I mean, I get thousands of students because of this. Here, there's probably another one. I mean, I didn't even, I mean, it's like, hello, this is the greatest honor ever. And if you go to Real Summits, let me just go to that this month, but every single month I'm doing a speech with them. And this summit this month looks like this. It's free, by the way, for everybody to join. But there's John Assaraf, Mel Robbins. There I am. Wow. There's Les. And they have been so gracious to me. But I also make really good sales. And so there's Mel Robbins, Eric Thomas, Les Brown, John Assaraf, JT Fox, and Forbes Riley, and Dr. Don Martini, and your friend Sharon Lechter. Let me tell you something. It's as one of the only women in that world. Here's the advantage I have. And I teach this. I can freaking pitch my product. So one, I can give a great speech, enroll people, because they have audiences of 30 to 50,000 people around the globe. Wow. And Friday, for example, I'm doing a class with 250 students that I just popped in from one of my conversations. And so for the first time, I really am having the kind of impact that I dreamed of and changing millions of lives.
Well, if anybody deserves it, it's you, Forbes. I commend you. I really am excited. I look at you like an older sister. You're just an incredible person, and I appreciate you because everything that's happened to me.
Wait, no, Tony, come on. Just
younger sister.
Just sister's fine. I don't need the old.
Younger sister.
Feel old. I feel. Oh my God, it's age.
Hey, it could be 2 years older. Doesn't matter.
There you go.
Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate that. All right, Forbes. So how does it feel to be on stage with some of the world's top speakers? Now we just talked about that. Like, how does it feel to be a part of that? Because that makes you part of them too. You're one of them. There's no more. What were we talking about earlier? It was the what do you call it when you have that personality where you feel like you're
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Thank you. You don't have that. That you're way past that. I mean, you are the one now. You're the equal. You're on the equal platform.
So 4 years earlier, my friend, I'm sorry, take a look at this and tell me if I should not be feeling. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Watch this. This has been 4 months in the making and a lifetime to actually get here.
When I heard her story, it just touched my heart.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving.
She brought the house down.
Forbes Riley is amazing.
I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win.
It took everything I am as a human being over the last 4 months to get right here. So I've already been on stage with Deep Rock and Les and all of those people. And I've been on stage for many years with them. And I have to remember that it's not about imposter syndrome, that I earned a place at the table. But I will tell you something, I fought for it all. It was never handed. It was never, that's why I say at the end of that video, it took 4 months to get to that stage of hard work, just putting the show together. And it's been a struggle. And so it feels very natural for me. I'm not complaining. I just don't think, I love being well known enough. Tony, there's something really, you know, my little fragile ego, let's go back to 2 hours ago. There's an ugly little girl with a broken nose and frizzy hair who's overweight, whose dad's in the hospital for 3 years, that sometimes doesn't feel all that important. Mm-hmm. And so I go to Clubhouse because I get modded and I get reminded because we're all the same. You know, it's a real important thing to note. I'm very starstruck. I love seeing people who I've only seen on screen, but I always have to remember that Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Benjamin Franklin, we all ate with a fork, a same spoon, sat on the same toilet, put your head on a pillow. And at the end of the day, no matter what you've done, you're still this little human who started out as a baby and is going to die someday. And I take great reverence in that. I don't believe that I'm any different or special. I think I've worked hard. And I think I have a message and a reason and a passion. And I'm always honored when somebody recognizes me. I take a lot of time to sign autographs and hug people and listen to them because I am them. The people say to me all the time, oh my God, you're so humble. I'm like, no, I just am. If other people are not, then shame on them because they think they're something else, but they're not. I've met so many people before they started and I'm always living in a massive state of gratitude.
Mm. That's beautiful, Forbes. And I think that's what attracts people like myself and Diamond to you. I mean, the community that we have, because that's the kind of community that I try to forge as I'm growing this community, this tribe, because I want people not just that are highly successful, but also have that heart. And my mentor, Sharon Lecter, you mentioned her, she was absolutely right about you. She said, Forbes got a great heart. So I commend you on that, Forbes.
That's one of the biggest compliments you can get. You know, I view myself, of all the people that I've ever idolized, as Morpheus from Matrix. I am a natural born teacher who has always lived outside of the box. So I see things and hear things that other people don't. I hear things in your languaging patterns. I can tell you about yourself. I'm very intuitive. And it's definitely a place that I love teaching now. And that's probably my most comfortable position.
Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate that. All right, Forbes, next question, maybe in a minute or so. What does it mean to be, what does being an entrepreneur mean to you? Maybe a minute or less.
It's a state of mind. If you're an entrepreneur, you're nothing. And you know, somebody said to me, stop saying you're an entrepreneur, start saying you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. But entrepreneurism is a belief that you can create something out of nothing. You must totally understand that it's not easy. And that if you've got a product, service, or idea, in my world, if you don't know how to pitch it, you should come to me, because there's nothing worse than being like my dad and dying with all of your great ideas in your head in the graveyard.
Mm. Thank you, Forbes. Forbes, provide a one-sentence definition of marketing and sales. This is going to lead up to your pitch stuff that you do, but I want to just step back for a second. Can you define marketing and then sales? Maybe one sentence definition for you.
Well, that's a very loaded question. Here's the combination of that. If you're a marketer or salesman, stop telling people what they need and enroll them and give them what they want. I remember I'll end today, by the way, with a little magic trick, and I'll show you how that's possible. Because you don't need to ever sell somebody. People want things all the time. And I'll leave you with this one little quote. People say, well, Forbes, you're so good, you could sell ice to Eskimos. Here's the thing, Tony. I would never sell ice to Eskimos because they don't need it.
Right.
I would go get the blanket and firewood, and that's why I've made $2.5 billion in sales.
Love it. Okay. What is more important, marketing or sales?
You know, what's more important? Which one of your children do you love more?
What do you like, the left arm or the left finger?
Right. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it's an interesting question, but there's no real answer to that. In fact, to run a successful business, and I now teach all of that, you need a lot of stars. You always need your sales, your marketing, but you also need to understand your finance. You need to understand your integration, your visionary. And if less all that is working, you've got a car that only has 3 wheels. How far are you going to get?
Actually, your answer is the right answer. That's the correct answer. There's no other way to look at it. From the bigger picture, you can argue that marketing is absolutely necessary to attract everyone, but without sales, you can't close, right? You can't get to the point where you transfer the people that we have to the dollar signs that will now be on our balance sheet. Like, we won't have any money in our hand without that sales process, which is the end of that funnel. So yeah, absolutely, Forbes. If you had to start all over again, how would you have ensured that your personal brand would have been more successful earlier? Now, I want to give you some examples. I just want to preface the question. So maybe owning your own content, negotiating with contracts better, hosting your own shows. Now, again, if you had to start all over again, like, because you basically became everything you've done, according to you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, in the past 4 years, particularly the past year and a half, you really passed that tipping point, but it took you a lifetime to really get there. If you could have went back to the point, like with your infomercials back in the 90s, and you did it all over again, knowing what you know now, is there a way to fast track that to like become where you're at now, maybe 20 years ago?
I'm what's known as an introverted extrovert. I'm very shy. I don't like to go to parties. I'm very withdrawn a lot of the time. It doesn't seem like it, but I am. I would have gotten out of my own way. I purposely played small. It came from my family. There were a lot of choices I could have done differently, and most of it would have just been to play a bigger game and take more risks. But I was afraid of rejection really badly when I was younger, and I just didn't do certain things I could have. And I know exactly what those were.
Thank you, Forbes. Is having passion important for an entrepreneur?
Nah, who the fuck cares? Oh, baby, you know what? Here's the thing.
Forbes, I got to charge you $100,000 for every one of those F words. You're costing me $1 million already.
Yeah, you know what? Let me tell you something. It's how passionate I am. And that's not a joke. That is the biggest thing people talk to me about energy and passion. It all comes down to you. When people invest in a product or a service, it's usually what it is, but who's behind it. And if you don't fall in love with what you're doing, how can you expect somebody else to?
Preach it. You're right. Absolutely right. What does it take to host a successful show? So you got another side of you too, that has to do with like hosting. You know, you started out with, I didn't even know this other part about you hosting for the ski place, and then you just hosting for infomercials. So what I'm doing on Clubhouse as a host, and this is the first time I've ever done in my life, actually, you've been doing for many years in many capacities. So what's it feel like to be a host for a successful show? What does it take?
There's a couple of things that you should study. You should go take an improv class. And I'll tell you why. Because there's great training and verbal flexibility that is a great muscle. So for example, in one of the things I'll play a game with you. You've got a second. How about we play something really fast? We'll do it for just 30 seconds. I'm going to say a sentence, and get this. The last letter of my last word is the first letter of the first word of your sentence. Okay? So if I said, how was your day today?
I would say a question or a sentence. Do I mean?
Whatever you want. How was your day today?
Yours was great.
Thank you. Now, but you all of a sudden had to engage your brain, like, all right, now I'm really listening, right?
Right.
And I'll tell you, we've done that ad nauseum. Here's another game that you play in improv that's weird. It's the fortunately, unfortunately game. So I'll say every sentence I say has to start with fortunately, yours has to start with unfortunately. So fortunately, this has been a great interview.
Unfortunately, we might have to pause in just a moment. I have to use the restroom. That's all right.
Fortunately, we can do that on Zoom. We can press the pause button.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I'm just too positive.
Well, that's so funny. So, but these are improv games, and I'll tell you what it does to your brain. It gets your brain thinking in a little bit of a different way than everyone listening. And all of a sudden you elevate yourself to host status because you're when you're hosting, you're firing on different buttons. You're thinking about diamond, you're thinking about who you're modeling. Your brain is all over the place. And that's part of what hosting is. You're not just a participant. So there's skills. I've been trained in how to listen. And I've got all of these crazy techniques that we incorporate into what looks like I'm just talking. And that's what makes a good host.
Forbes, now you know Clubhouse very well, okay? So would you say what I do, which is rare there, hosting, especially for big rooms with big names all the time, Clubhouse being new technology, would you say that that is a very hard, like the most difficult level of hosting, or is there something that maybe I haven't experienced as a host? Whereas I'm guessing probably the visual part.
Oh yeah, being on camera. Look at your late night hosts. How talented they have to be, how easy, how facile, how funny, because when you've got 3 cameras and a studio audience and somebody in your ear, or in my world, if you're hosting home shopping and you've got to sell $2,000 to $5,000 a minute every minute, your brain is on firing on so many levels.
Wow.
Clubhouse, and you do a really, really good job of it. Clubhouse has its own ecosystem where you got to listen to your back chats. Who are you modding? Making sure mics are quiet, making sure the flow is happening, getting your guests. It's awesome what you do, but it's the same as a radio show host. The visual adds a sick amount of pressure that you can't even conceive of.
Oh, so a visual form of a host would be 10 times harder?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And then you add a studio audience along with cameras. Because now I know this camera's here, but if I'm looking over here, did they get that side of me? Do I have makeup on? Is my hair? What was my outfit? I had a wardrobe person. And there's also a producer in your ear. I mean, you can notch this up a couple of levels to.
Whoa. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you can have a TV talk show. We'll talk about it. I got a studio.
I'm up for the challenge.
Good.
All right. Is having passion, we already asked that one. Why are you so passionate about fitness?
Oh my God, because you see my man, I want to look like his wife and not his mother. I am on a mission, my friend. Look at this girl, this body here. I want to always look like her. My mom was 260 pounds and died from diabetes. I have 2 19-year-old children. I turned 62. If I don't stay fit and healthy, I don't get to see them grow up and enjoy their lives. And that's what I want more than anything on this planet, is to meet my grandchildren.
That's a beautiful response. I love it. Who are some of the celebs you have worked with? You already mentioned a few. Can you summarize in maybe 30 seconds?
Oh my God, I got to hang out with Bill Clinton, Kim Kardashian, certainly Harrington, Grant Cardone and his wife. Les Brown is one of my all-time yummiest best friends in the world. Here's 2 people I didn't show. Jack LaLanne and Elaine. I spent 8 years with Jack LaLanne. We grossed $1 billion. This man was the godfather of fitness. At 96, Elaine has more passion than I do. She's one of my best friends on the planet and a mother from another. And I'll tell you what, I've met the best. I could go on. I mean, I have met some of the best producers and directors and actors in this world, and I get to call them friends. Yeah, I've led a very blessed life. I won't go on all of them. It's a long list.
Wow. What do you like to do for fun? Maybe a minute or less.
Well, okay, so I'm going to share a really crazy story. I love to do this. So imagine this, there's a health spa in Los Angeles where all the famous actresses go and we all stand around naked. It's called the Beverly Hot Springs. And one day I'm there and I think I'm seeing Vivica Fox. No clothes, I have no clothes. You have to really appreciate this visual. And it's a Korean spa, right?
Okay.
And I'm there because I wrote a new book called Redition and I want a celebrity. I want Paula Abdul to do the forward in my book. But I get to the spa and I see Vivica and I go, oh, you know what? Because I'm very quick about certain things. Vivica was in Independence Day, and the girl who played Jeff Goldblum's girlfriend and I grew up tap dancing together. really weird, obscure. I walk up to her in the locker room like, Vivica, and she's like, hi. I'm like, oh, you don't remember me? I met you, with Margaret Colin from Independence Day. And it's a total lie. And she's like, oh. I said, what are you up to right now? She said, well, I'm doing this review show. I'm doing a movie in Canada. I said, I've got the greatest thing. You want to see something cool? She's like, what is it? I said, give me your thumbs. I put this on her. Now we're both naked, butt naked, boobs flying everywhere. And she's doing this. And she said, oh my God, this is amazing. How do I get one of these? I said, you give me an endorsement for my new book and I'll give you this one. Boom, we became best friends. Now, the crazy part of this is that night I go to a charity dinner and I want to meet Paula Abdul. By the way, I walk in the door and I just bought a ticket. I'm just a guest. I walk in, it's in Beverly Hills, and they're like, oh my God, Forbes, you're here. I'm like, yeah. They said, Kevin Harrington is getting an award. The person's not here to give it to him. Would you mind going on stage and awarding him this award? Remember I told you he and I are very tied together. And I'm like, sure. So they upgrade me to the front row, the big table. And you know who I'm sitting opposite? Paula Abdul.
Wow.
Holy shit. And I'm like, okay, how do I get to meet Paula? I have one of these in a gift bag because I knew I was gonna track Paula down in the ladies' room if I had to. And I walk around the table and I get down on my knees. I'm like, Paula, hi. I have to share something with you. I'm a huge fan. I grew up as an overweight little girl dancing, and I used to love your videos. Thank you for all that you've done. I know you're going out on tour, and I have a gift for you. And I didn't even take it out and show it to her. I was so nervous. I gave it to her and I sat down. Tony, I'm at her table and I'm still nervous. So she gets up and she does her speech. She's the first one up. She comes down off stage and kneels down next to me. And she's like, Forbes, I have to tell you something. I'm like, yeah. She said, I always get so nervous when I speak. You were so passionate. And I love what you said that I just spontaneously spoke. Are you going to speak on stage as well? And I thought, yeah. I get up there, I give this award to Kevin, and I said a very emotional, I pulled all the stops out on this speech. She comes back to me, grabs my hand and said, look, I'm going out on tour, but we're dancing in the studio tomorrow. Will you come and give an inspirational talk to my dancers? So now I become best friends with Vivica Fox and Paula Abdul in 2 days. Thank you very much, SpinGym.
Oh my gosh, that is super cool. And they gave you the endorsement for your book, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. And if I can find it, I got great pictures of me and Paula. I went out, I saw her on tour. We really became friends. It's like crazy, right?
Wow. All right. I have a couple bonus questions. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to infomercials. How did you become the queen of infomercials? So you already told us, but can you summarize it? Maybe
if you live long enough. Here's the thing. I freaking love what I do. Okay, so number one, here's a little picture. There's me and Paula. Can you see that? We did a little speaking gig together.
Wow.
Wait, so there's me and Paula, but here's what's even funny about this. There's the book that I wrote. This is that night. There's this famous model named Kara. There's Paula. There's Paula sitting at my table.
That's funny.
There's her up on stage. There's her having a little thing. This is a woman who created apple cider vinegar. I could go on and really bore you with all the people that I've met and I know. But isn't that funny? I can show you a picture of the moment I met Paula. I was stunned by this. Here's the thing about infomercials. I was at the right place at the right time with the right talent. And I loved pitching. Tony, you have no idea. I pitched 1,500 products when I got to the idea of selling and doing infomercials. And I don't know if you ever watched me do them, but it has been my insane passion. And you also make money doing it. Like, it's not an acting job. I have been acting, and I didn't even show you my acting demo tapes. That's another long story. I've been on Broadway. I've been doing plays and movies. I'm in a movie right now on Amazon Prime. Do you know this?
No.
It's called, where have you been? See, this is the problem with Clubhouse.
That's why we got to hang out some more. You've been on my stage for over a year, and I could be promoting all this stuff, and I don't even know anything about it.
Oh, I know. Well, this is crazy. So this is why I'm so happy that you asked me. And again, I didn't push you to this because I am a little shy. So this movie called Farm to Fork to Love is on Amazon right now. I co-star in this movie. And let's see, a co-star, there I am on the movie set. We shot in the middle of COVID. I play a food critic in New York City. And I got to tell you, it's one of those things is like, people don't even realize I'm still acting. And I would love to do another television series.
Do you get paid a lot of money to do, not you specifically, but I'm saying like people do those kind of roles? Do they get a lot of money? Is it worth it compared to a lot of the other stuff that's going on in this?
Let me tell you something. You don't act for the money, but if you get it, it's great. You act because you freaking love it.
Right.
I've done stage plays. I've made $0. I love acting so much. But the big guys, if you know their name, they're definitely multimillionaires.
Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate that. Forbes, what does pitching mean to you in maybe 1 minute or less?
Pitching is lifeblood. You pitch every day, all day. You pitch me to be on the show. I pitch you to listen to my daughter on stage. We pitch. That's what we do. The problem with pitching is that people stop going, wait, let me pitch you this product. No, no, no. And I teach this, Tony. I'm going to invite you to one of my classes because I don't think you realize how much fun we have and what we can do and how we're changing the world. Because remember I said I was kind of afraid and an introvert, but I know how to get what I want because I understand the art and craft of pitching.
That's beautiful. What are your top 3 best pitching tips of all times in a minute or less?
Oh my God. Well, one is stop telling people what they need, give them what they want. Don't pitch to a closed door. Sometimes people pitch way too soon. You're trying to sell people all the time. And I use a thing called relatability factors, that you are the part of your own pitch. Too often people go, hey, I've got this great lipstick. I would say, no, don't ever start there. I would say, you know what? As a woman who's really fallen in love with a man, the coolest thing if you're single is to have luscious lips. All of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I want that. Well, I've got a product that plumps your lips, tastes like cinnamon, and it's uber kissable. Anybody want it?
I love it. So Forbes, when are you going to pitch me to one of these big Hollywood companies?
What do you want?
Oh, wait, that wasn't on the list.
Tony, you know what? We do get to hang out. We've spent a lot. Guys, if you're still listening to this broadcast right now, I honor your patience. Tony, here's the thing. If you
It's a classic.
If you tell me what you want, I'll help you go get it.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk offline. All right. So I'm going to save these. Actually, you know what? This would be a good one. I don't know if you can answer this one in a minute or less, but if you can give it a try. I asked this to Dr. John DeMartini on stage on Friday. Is it possible? I'm asking this because you're a fitness guru. Is it possible for humans to live forever? And should they want to?
No. I'll tell you what, I'm a huge, there's a videotape of me sword fighting I'll have to share with you because I did an audition for Highlander. I don't think you want to live forever, especially if you're the only one, because people will die around you. I would love, God, I love history. Can you imagine this planet 100 years from now? What would you be able to see? Can you imagine your great grandparents who never realized you could fly? They went from horse and buggy to sitting in a seat 35,000 feet in the air. So life has so many interesting facets to it. I'm going to be very sad to leave the planet when it's my time because you're going to miss so much. And I'm not scientifically aware enough to know how long people can live, but I think we can probably live about 150 years, but not the way we eat, not the way we think or breathe or take in all the toxins. We kill ourselves on a regular basis and we seem to be okay with that. So don't get me involved in the idea of what it means to be a diabetic or to have cancer. But we're doing a very good job of hormonally injecting our food with things and thinking negative thoughts. So I would like to live as long as I can, though, as long as I'm healthy.
Yeah, that's the key. The last part of that sentence, as long as you're healthy. Who wants to live to 2000 if the 1950 of those years you're just in utterly physical misery?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Forrest. Appreciate the brave, courageous answer. What would you do the first month that you were a billionaire? Maybe a sentence or less.
Well, I already know it's like to have all the money in the world. So, I think that's a weird, I would not say that question because how much money does a person need? A billion is 1,000 millions. I've crossed over $1 million. My 19-year-old crossed over earning $1 million. You know what we did? Nothing. You know why? Because it was never about the money in the first place. I have a friend of mine who won the lottery, won $5 million, and to this day he's a massive drug addict. So apparently it's not about the money ever. And that's the problem. People who don't have it think it's all about the money. And when they get it, I think you've read the statistics that almost every lottery winner has imploded. So I do the things that I do. Maybe I buy, how much bigger plane do you need? How much nicer car do you need? How many clothes do you need? At some point, if you're smart enough and you make enough money, it's never about the money.
That's brilliant. But what would you do with $1 billion, knowing all that you know? Because that is a brilliant answer.
You know what I would love to do? I'd like to open a system of schools around the world that unites and educates young people on the possibilities and bigger thinking, whether it's Joshua's way to work out, whether it's my daughter's way to manifest things, because I don't think that people need to learn the bullshit that they're learning in school. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook when I left. I didn't learn anything about interpersonal connections, and I couldn't cook an egg. Really, it's kind of sucked. But I sure could do calculus and know what river Washington crossed in 18 whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? My daughter has a theory about this. She said, Mom, school is so weird. She said, I never need to memorize anything. I'm always going to have one of these in my hand. If I want to know a fact, you give me 5 minutes and I'll find anything. And teachers don't know that.
Yeah, that's knowledge, but you got to learn how to use it and apply it. Yeah, which is a totally different skill set. Absolutely, Forbes. Great point. All right, Forbes, we're going into the template questions and then we'll wrap it up. We'll figure about a minute or less each. These are the standard questions I've asked everybody on here, from Les Brown to Kevin Harrington to my mentor, Sharon Lechter, et cetera. Can one book change the world? Maybe 30 seconds or less.
One book did change the world. It's called the Bible.
Think and Grow Rich?
No, Think and Grow Rich is nice. You know what? I'm going to say every book has changed the world. And if you're smart, you'll read as many of them as possible.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Forbes. All right, Forbes, next question is, what role has networking played in your life? Maybe a minute or less.
It's everything. Who you know. That's how I got my doctorate. That's how I've lived my entire life. Networking is meeting people. I learned this from a long time ago from my ex. He was a political fundraiser. He had a Rolodex back with all the cards in it. He used to sit there every day for hours on end, just calling people like, what the hell are you doing? He said, no. He said, what? Can you hear me? Oh, you have one of them.
Hold on one second. Jeez, I got to move everything around. That's crazy.
That's funny.
You talking about one of these?
That's so
I got to show you a blank one so that, there you go. I don't want to show
oh
off
my God, that's
contacts.
hysterical. Oh. So he used to say that these are not cards, these are people. And here's what networking is. Call people when you don't need them, so they're there when you do.
Wow. That's brilliant. Forbes, I'm sorry, I got to just adjust this. I think I knocked my thing out of whack here. All right, cool. All right, so let's see. Is mentoring important? Which is an extension of this question. And if so, who are some of your mentors?
Mentoring is everything. It's how we learn. You should apprenticeship. You should learn from people. You know, we talk about Les Brown and Sharon and Kevin. It's anybody who's come before you. But I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of my mentors I never met. My mentors were in my imagination. They were actresses who came before me. They taught me how to walk and talk, from Katharine Hepburn to Audrey Hepburn to Jane Fonda. I never met my mentors. I did when I graduated college. I went to work for a billionaire in New York City. And I was a social secretary for them because I knew there were things that I just didn't know the way I grew up. My mom had the same plastic green couch in the living room our entire life.
That was my grandmom's.
Right. And I knew that people lived a different way. And I'll tell you what, when I was working for Mrs. Grace, I learned a lot of things about how my family would take a bite of food and then start talking, and food would fall out of their face. Other people don't talk that way. I get it. I'm in the car one day, Tony, and she says to me, you need to go get Louis Vuitton out of the trunk. And I said to her, who's in the trunk? And she said, you'll learn. And I said, you're right. And I did. And you learn from everybody. Let everybody who's come before you be your mentor.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Forbes. Appreciate that. What are your favorite financial books? Maybe 2 or 3 max. And if you don't have any, maybe just give you ideas. I view business books.
Finance guy. I got a whole stack of his books over there. Now what I'm supposed to say, is that the right answer?
Hey, I can't force you to answer anything, because that would liquidate the value of that question.
That prior to you, I've ever read a finance book. Not my. I didn't do well in economics. All my stuff is scrappy. I've learned it on the go, and I have great accountants.
That's awesome. Thank you. How about any business or money books? Have you read any business or money or biographies?
I have bookshelves after bookshelves after bookshelves. Everything from the greatest salesman on earth to, my mind shuts down with all the books that I have over here. There's Tony Robbins books, there's Grant Cardone's books, there's people who've gone before us books, there's obviously Dale Carnegie. And in fact, you should be on the lookout for a new book called Pitch and Grow Rich. It's coming.
Yeah, Pitch and Grow Rich. Wow, I really like that name. That is great. I won't tell anybody, but unfortunately, this is going to go out to the world. So.
That's all right. They can read it. It'll be out soon enough.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Forbes. Do we need money to survive? Maybe 30 seconds.
Wow, what an interesting question. You know, money is energy. Money is not what people think it is. And if you understand how to leverage yourself, your time, and your talent, treasure is important. Do you need money to survive? No, you need water, air, and someone to love. But if you want to flourish and go shopping in the mall, I think you need a credit card.
Well, let me preface it. In modern civilization, do you need money to survive?
In any civilization, I mean, I've studied anthropology. In every civilization, I've got something you want, we got to trade.
Yeah.
So yeah, barter is the same thing as money. It's just an exchange of energy. We call it a euro, we call it a dollar, we call it a Bitcoin. You'll always need something to exchange because trading cows for cars gets very heavy.
Exactly. So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. The next question would be, is finance necessary for everyone? Why or why not?
Like I'm back in school. Like I feel like I haven't answered this many
Hey,
questions.
I saved all the money questions for last. We would get pretty good up to this point.
You know what? Dude, here's my thing about this. I respect the financial industries. I respect stocks, and my son just made 10 grand off an NFT. I don't care. I'm what's called an idiot savant. I'm so living in the present moment that there's only so many things you can do in the 24 hours you've got, right? And so I hire people and have people around me to protect my money, to invest my money. I just don't have any, I don't have any spare time to do that. I mean, I heard Dr. Jarmontini say he doesn't do things he doesn't love. That's one of the things that I leave it to the guys who can figure that out. I just don't care.
But I know when I say finance, I'm talking about the science of managing wealth, learning about money, learning about all this.
Oh, I know, you're talking to the wrong girl. I just talked to a financial advisor today. I have had people, the guy who started Neuberger Berman was a friend of mine. I surrounded myself with people who, you know what, your core values, you have to put it together. I am an emotional visionary who's passionate about what I do. I can obviously talk all day long. I don't want to spend any of my brain space doing that. So yes, you need people who love that, who eat and breathe that, Dr. Finance, who write books about it, who call themselves the word finance. I'll tell you what, in my world, it's irrelevant.
Okay. Thank you, Forbes. All right. 3 questions left. How important is having a purpose in business? You like this question. And what is your purpose? So that's actually 2 in 1.
You just need a purpose in life. You need a reason to get out of bed and bound out. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know how you find your purpose. I lived on an ashram for a while. I've chanted with gurus. I've gone horseback riding for days and lived with nature. I've gone living in the jungle. You know, what is your purpose? By the way, do you ever step on an anthill, Tony? Do you ever step on an ant?
Actually, a few days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they have a funeral for the ant?
No.
No, because nobody freaking cares. And here's the problem with humans. We're all so self-involved and we think we matter. Apparently the world's been around billions of years. The dinosaurs, I don't know where they went. Nobody really cares about you. They just don't. And so you get a moment to go, I love my life and love my family. And a minute after you've died and the funeral's over, people move on. Very few people's names have we ever remembered. I don't think that legacy is real. I think legacy lasts in music, maybe. Ben Franklin, we know his name, but we don't know his neighbor or his wife or his kids' names because there's only so much space we have. And so I think life is meant to be enjoyed. And so your purpose is nice, but don't waste time trying to figure it out because by the time you figure it out, you're dead anyway. I think you need to find what makes you happy and go and do it. And if watching your kids and your grandkids, but if you're miserable all the time, go do something else. You don't need as much money as you think.
What's your purpose, Forbes? If you could put it in 1 sentence.
You know what? I just think I'm pure inspiration. You know what? I think I told you a pretty good story of a life well led. So my purpose is to be a role model. I've gone through so much shit that right now my purpose is to get loved on by Joshua. There's some days I don't leave the bedroom. We literally hug and kiss and watch movies and just love on each other because for many years of my life, I didn't know what love looked like. And above all, and he said it and he was sitting on my lap. You know, we were stranded in an airport. We've spent 5 days being stranded not long ago in Cancun. I didn't care about anything. I had somebody that I loved who thinks the world begins and ends with me. And if you can find a partner, someone to love who loves you back, life is as good as it gets.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Forbes. All right, Forbes, 2 questions left. You're doing great. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so and why?
Just world domination.
That's it.
Well, okay, that's one. Number 2, Tony, I want to be introduced and have nobody ever need to read my bio again. Nobody ever says, Oprah, she went to the, no, ladies and gentlemen, Oprah, the president, Lady Gaga, Forbes Riley, you're done. That's my goal.
I like it. But more movies, more books.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
The story I told you today, I would love to have a movie based on. I have got a television series. I can't tell you the name of it, but there's a secret that I didn't tell you. I spent 10 years in my 20s doing something, and I created my first $1 million business, but I didn't tell you what it is.
What is it?
You'll have to watch the television series.
Okay.
No, and I'm not kidding. It is
Okay.
that proprietary and that exciting, but I did something that no one's ever done. And I did it for a long time, and I made a ton of money doing it. And let me give you a little hint. What I did stopped the stock market. Wall Street stopped for 7 minutes because of one thing that I did.
Wow.
And I want a TV series about that.
Can I be in the movie?
Oh yeah, you got a whole seat right there.
Nice. All right, last question, Forbes. What would you like to be your legacy to this world? I mean, you talked about legacy before, but what would you want to be your legacy? If you can say this is what you want, you got the chance now to do it. You can control your destiny after death.
You know what, Tony, I already did. I've got 2 beautiful kids. I didn't miss that. I've got 2 kids who love their mom so much. My daughter, all right, I will tell you the final story, actually. My daughter's taking me on a week to a health resort because she just wanted to spend time with her mom. She will tell you that her greatest joy in life is seeing her mom happy. Because I don't know if I expressed, but I went through some real crappy tragedies growing up. Way more, I didn't let you in on all the emotion that tied to that. But one of them, we go back to my mom being held up at gunpoint. They took all of her jewelry. We didn't have very much to start with. My 16th birthday present was supposed to be a gold locket with a tiny diamond chip in it that had a picture of my grandmother in it. And that was the most important thing that my mom had. Well, they stole that. They stole all my crappy jewelry. And for years, I would look at women's engagement rings and jewelry, and I would just feel bad. It would remind me of how hurtful that was to have somebody take all of that from you. And so one day, and by the way, my ex-husband would buy me jewelry and I would put it in the vault. I have this weird reaction to jewelry. I didn't want to lose it. I wanted to take it and I wouldn't wear it. Well, what's the point of having it if you don't wear it? And so one day my daughter's 8 years old and we're going with my in-laws who had a nice amount of money. We're on a cruise in Alaska. We get off and there's always these diamond stores at the end of every
Oh
night.
yeah. Yep.
So my father-in-law is buying my mother-in-law a pair of real diamond earrings and a diamond necklace, whatever she wants. And I'm just looking at them and I'm feeling bad. I know it always triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter tugs on my shirt. She's like, Mom, are you going to get something? And I'm like, no. So well, do you want something? I'm like, no. She said, you can you afford it? I'm like, yeah, I can get anything I want. I don't want anything. And she looked at me and she got really sad. And your kids don't always listen to what you say, but they sure watch your behavior.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, she said, Mom, I'm going to get you a piece of jewelry for every year of my life because you've been so wonderful to me. I'm like, oh, and that's so cute of you. Well, when she was 14, she brought me a real diamond necklace worth thousands of dollars that she'd saved up from all of her money because she knew she wanted to get, and it's this most beautiful heart necklace. A couple of years ago, we're walking in Las Vegas and we go to a jewelry store and she said, Mom, let's pick out one of those big fancy engagement rings. I'm like, I don't need to do that. She said, no, come on with me. And we go in and we look at a ring. She's like, did you like that one? I said, that's gorgeous. She calls over the salesman and she said, how much is that? And he said, $26,000. And she said, I'll take it, just not right now. And I thought it was kind of cute, right? So last year on my birthday, she took me out to lunch. We go to PF Chang's and we're sitting there and she's shaking. And I'm like, are you okay? She's like, she's so nervous. She got tears in her eyes. She's like, Mom, I've got something for you. I'm like, what? So I bought you a birthday present. I'm like, okay. And she opens up this beautiful box that had a light in it. And inside the box was this.
What? Wow.
She designed
that is so pretty. Wow.
She designed it. She bought it and she bought it with her own money. And she's like, Mom, I'm not giving this to you because I want you to show off. I just want you to know how special you are. And to this day, she and I have this amazing bond. Sorry.
It's okay.
That she almost wants me to be happier than I am. You know, it's a funny thing. And so my son gives me hugs in public. Somebody once said when they were little, said, oh, by the time your son is 10, he won't want to see you around anymore around his friends. My son gives me massive hugs and kisses, doesn't care where it is. So my legacy is my beautiful kids. And I will leave you with, I told you I would do it. Are you done with your questions now that I'm crying?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I want to turn the floor over to you now, Forbes. So whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to do, magic tricks.
No, I think I've got some things I have to do. I didn't realize I had so much fun talking to you. You're amazing. You know what makes you a great host is you care. you listen, you have curiosity, and I think that you're an incredible, generous spirit. I love you and Diamond on stage, and I thank you for making me feel special. I mean, I know what I bring to the party, but remember, inside you're talking to a little girl who wants to know that she's pretty, know that she's loved, and know that I matter. And that's always been the most important thing to me. So I'm going to
Thank you, Forbes.
I'm gonna take a piece of paper here and I'm gonna make a prediction on it. And I'm going to take this one piece of paper and stick it down my blouse. And I promise not to. I promise not to touch it at all. Okay. Now it's challenging to do a magic trick long distance, but I'm gonna take some things on my desk. I'm gonna take a magic marker. I'll take my phone. I'll take my little rock that says love on it. I'll take that lipstick. And I'll take a mouse. Okay, can you see all those things?
Yeah, yeah.
I would like you to say the name.
Hi, everybody. I'm
Sorry.
Forbes Riley, and welcome to Forbes.
Oh shit, the mouse.
Where we make the world your stage.
Second, hang on. Shush, stop. Okay, mouse, be quiet. Okay, are you there? Tony, come back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, would you say the name, 1, 2, 3, 4, would you say the name of any 3 of those? Can you see them all?
You want me to say the name of 3 of them?
Yeah, any 3.
Can you talk? Because I can't, when I talk, it pushes you to the screen.
Oh, you know what? Put it on
Oh,
speaker.
there it goes. I see mouse, a phone, and well, I got to pin you to the screen so I can see it. Let me see.
Okay.
A mouse, a phone, and lipstick. Is that lipstick?
Yeah. So a mouse, lipstick, and a phone.
Where's your SpinGym at? That would have been a great one.
That leaves a rock and a pen. Would you point to just one of them?
Yeah, rock.
Okay, so we'll keep the rock. Keep the rock there. The rock says love on it, right? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, want to see something crazy? How
Sure.
would I have predicted that of all the things that I could have chosen, or you could have chosen, there's nothing on that side, but there's something written on that side.
Uh-huh.
It's my love rock.
Oh,
That's what it says on the rock.
wow. That is cool.
Thank you. Ah, the
Great
crowd
job.
goes crazy. Yeah.
I got to do the DJ air horn. I don't have it available though.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love magic. I think that life is magic. My dad taught me to find the magic everywhere. And it's everywhere where you look for it. When I got pregnant, it was very important that my mom was pregnant with twins. And when she was 5 months pregnant, she was in a car accident. Her head went through the windshield and the baby boy died. And I was born at 4 months. I weighed only 4 pounds when I was born, premature, in an incubator for like 3 months.
Wait, you were a twin?
Yeah. And I've never, And so when I got pregnant and the doctor said, you're not only pregnant, you're pregnant with twins. I remember calling my sister and going, wow, remind me of the story because my mom had already been passed. She died a year ago. And then the doctor says, well, you conceived on March 20th. I said, isn't that fascinating? That's my mother's birthday, the first year after she's passed away.
Wow.
And then she said, well, your twins are due on December 7th. That's my dad's birthday, the first year after he passed away. And I got blessed with boy-girl twins. I just happened to notice the miracles in life someday and take advantage of the fact that life happens for you, not to you. You've got to be conscious, you got to be grateful, and you got to give more than you get so that you get more than you ever imagined.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Forbes. Forbes, where can we find out more information about you, websites, whatever you want to share with that?
All right, so if you guys want to, if you're still listening, if you want to come, go to ForbesRiley.com. All my links are there. And every Sunday at 5 o'clock, since COVID started, I teach a 2-hour pitch class, and I would love you guys to join me. It's called Pitch Secrets Masterclass, and it's live. It's on Zoom. I answer questions. I teach what I know, and I make millionaires all the time.
How long is the class for?
2 hours.
2 hours. Wow.
Pitch
And what's
Secrets Masterclass. I'd love you to come.
What's your website address again?
My name, ForbesRiley.com.
ForbesRiley.com, folks. That's where it's at. ForbesRiley.com. All right. Well, thank you, Forbes. We're going to close out. I just want to say thanks again for coming on here, Forbes. Appreciate it. And I'm so excited about the Clubhouse room next week. I think that's going to be great. Hopefully, we can invite some other superstars, Les Brown, whatnot, and make that a huge room. It's just going to be incredible.
Well, definitely, I will invite Sharon and Les. We get to celebrate my birthday, and I'll leave you with a little bit of a fun never forget this interview, and I think you're just such a great friend. Thank you so much, my darling.
Thank you, Forbes. Appreciate it. Forbes, we're going to close out. If you could just hang tight for just a moment as we do that. And by the way, I knew you were a singer. See, I said Forbes is a singer. I called you. Come on, give me a little credit, right? All right. Thank you, Forbes. All right, folks. So you've been watching, this is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We got our star today, Forbes Riley. And if you want to get more information, look at the website, drfinance.info. Sign up for a newsletter there. And also on the podcast page, we're going to put all the podcast stuff. We're also going to put this on YouTube and blast it out to 20 plus podcast directories, every podcast you could think of. So it's going to be incredible in the recording. Just you can watch anytime you want. But follow, like, and subscribe. That's the main thing, folks. That's how you get part of this community. Okay, so I got 3 major books. I got The Necessity of Finance here on the wall. And then we got The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. I wrote them as a university professor. And eventually my conclusive book on many of the things that I came up with in those 2 books is called The Survival of the Richest, a book about 500 plus pages, which is really extending some of the greatest ideas of the greatest scientists in history to apply it to money. So with that said, folks, thanks again for listening, and love to see you again on the next podcast episode. So thanks again, Forbes. Appreciate it. See you in the clubhouse.